and police are asking for the public's help. Police say they were called close to 8 p.m. last night where they found a woman in the road at 850 South and 425 East. Chief of Police Chad Reyes says she was taken to the hospital where she later died. She was 65 years old. He says it looks like a hit and run.
If you're a witness, we've got some very distraught family members, as you can imagine, and we're trying our best to get justice for them and bring this case to conclusion and hold the person responsible accountable.
Family and neighbors say this woman usually walked around the block that time of day to get some exercise. He says it'll be best for whoever may have hit her to come forward. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The federal government is just hours away from a shutdown.
If the government shuts down, as many as 4 million federal employees could go without a paycheck. 2 million troops could be forced to work without pay, leaving military families in limbo.
We're not talking about faceless humans in a faraway office.
Heather Campbell's husband is a major in the Air Force in Alabama.
We're talking about men and women and moms and dads and grandparents and sisters and uncles, and they want to show up and they want to do a good job and they want to be honest, hardworking Americans. And they're getting caught in the middle of this political rhetoric.
She worries about making ends meet for their 3 kids.
ABC News senior political correspondent Rachel Scott reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 102 points, 0.2% to 46,213. Coming up, we've got rain falling on parts of the commute and a portion of Highway 189 near Deer Creek shut down. Traffic and weather together is next. KSL News Time, 9:01.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Amanda, I'm always on the hunt for a deal where I get the highest quality for the best price. I mean, that's what everybody wants, right? But Bedrock Quartz delivers that. They give you the highest end countertops and backsplashes and bathrooms and tiles and all of those things. And right now, you can get the best price ever on what they have.
I love that they've extended this friends and family discount through the month of September. So you literally will pay what an employee of Bedrock Quartz would pay through the month of September. And they did 2 bathrooms at our old place and 1 in our new place. And Andy, there's just nothing like getting in a shower that is as beautiful as it can be with Bedrock Quartz.
You know, if you're in your home and you're not looking to move, but you can still make it feel like new with new countertops or new bathrooms. So right now, when you go into their showroom, the price on the showroom is what it is installed, no additional markup.
And that's true whether it's quartz or quartzite or granite or marble. And they have 100 different options to choose from. So you'll find something you fall in love with.
They're a 4th-generation, family-owned countertop company headquartered in Utah since 1976. Check them out online at bedrockquartz.com.
So my mother is thinking of switching from Verizon to Pure Talk, but she's worried the deal sounds too good to be true. Michael, she said, how can those Pure Talk people offer me the same basic service as Verizon for so much less money? I said, Ma, go ask Google how much Verizon spends on advertising and promotions. A few seconds later, my mother said, oh my goodness, $12 billion a year? That must be a typo. I'll tell you what I told my mom. It's not a typo. Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotions, and their customers are paying for it. Well, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. Trust me, I would know. That's why they can offer you and my mother unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a crazy fast 5G network for just $25 a month. And if you're a business owner, you could really save a fortune. Dial pound 250, say the words Mike Rowe, and you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 Mike Rowe. Pure Talk. Everything you need and nothing you don't.
I'm back to doing what I love and more. Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Does it feel like someone stabbing a knife into your heel? Or does your lower back pain get worse as the day goes on? The Good Feet store wants to help you like we helped Ann.
Every time I stood up, pain just shot up my legs. Fortunately, I found the Good Feet store. I went to them after my doctor diagnosed me with plantar fasciitis. And now, thanks to the Good Feet store, I'm 100% pain-free.
Wouldn't it be nice to get back to doing what you love, like Patrick did?
I was in constant pain. Somehow my fiance and I found our way into the Good Feet store. Put my foot on the arch support system, I put them in my shoes, walked out of the store. All the pain was gone. My back, my knees, my ankles. Thank you. Thank you, everybody at the Good Feet store. You gave me my active life back.
Come in and get your free personalized fitting at the Good Feet store. Find the location nearest you and schedule an appointment at goodfeet.com.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Here's the update with Cormac Bone.
US 189 just opened up after a shutdown at Deer Creek Reservoir due to a crash. Still expect big delays from Heber to Provo. Previous crash on I-15 southbound causing unusual delays from Murray to Sandy, and then rain moving through Weber and Davis counties causing delays. Watch your speed on those wet roads. When you need the financial products and services for every stage of life, Cyprus Credit Union is there for whatever the future holds. Visit cypruscu.com today. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today will be mostly cloudy with some scattered rain showers. It'll be cooler with highs in the 70s. That'll continue into tonight, but should clear up by tomorrow morning. Right now, it is mostly cloudy and 64 degrees. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio. The Michigan Church Attack. Special coverage on KSL News Radio.
While the FBI has not announced a motive as to why a man started shooting at people attending church meetings at a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint meeting in Michigan, we are learning more about those who interacted with him. Good morning and welcome to Inside Sources. I'm your host this morning, Greg Skordas, and I'm alongside Dave Cowley, KSL podcast host. Dave, good to see you in the studio with me again.
I am not Holly, but
I'm
glad to be here with you.
Well, I usually see you across the table interviewing you, but today we're side by side, and I appreciate you being here because this is a hard gig to do alone.
Well, I believe it. I was a radio reporter for a long, long time, and it's been a while since I was in this role. Usually I'm doing the podcast stuff, which is alone in a booth, but live on the radio is a different gig entirely.
Well, you got me hooked on the You Into Triangle podcast. I listened to every word of that, and now I told you earlier I got to jump into the Uinta. So in the spring, I'm going to hook you up and have you tell me what to do. But we are learning a lot more about the man involved in this shooting, Dave, and he actually had some ties to Utah.
Yeah, this really surprised me. I mean, Michigan, this shooting, obviously at an LDS church building, a lot of people, I think, were focused on what could the motive potentially be, what connection did this shooter potentially have with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so you start reading these articles that are bubbling up yesterday and this morning, and they're talking about Thomas Sanford potentially having lived in Utah for a time.
Right, and a local city council candidate named Chris Johns says that he spoke to him and kind of had a hate-filled speech just days before the attack.
The last thing he said was that Mormons are the Antichrist.
So that's a big statement. He said Mormons are the Antichrist?
Correct.
So we're joined in studio this morning by KSL News Radio's Adam Small. Adam, you've been following the story closely. Can you tell us what the latest is about the suspect?
Yeah, so we've just been finding some there's a lot of different outlets obviously reporting on this story, and being as far away as we are kind of trying to outsource and learn as much as we can. And there were a couple of reports that stuck out to us today because we are learning the shooter allegedly had ties to Utah. So Thomas Sanford apparently lived here at one point. It sounds like it was, according to the New York Times, had the most information. They talked to a couple of people who claimed to be lifelong friends of Thomas Sanford, saying that one of them, Peter Tersigny, apparently had lived in Michigan, actually went to school with Sanford as far back as preschool. So he knows him really well. He goes to the Marines on a 4-year tour in Iraq, and says, he kind of used to be the class clown, and that kind of made him a little more serious. But then at some point, a little over 10 years ago, he comes out to Utah and fell in love with a woman who was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Sanford was not a member, but he basically said he was so in love with this woman, he felt pressured to join. He wanted to be with this woman, but for one reason or another that's not exactly clear, the relationship ends painfully. He moves back to Michigan, and Tersigny basically just describes he is completely changed. He is speaking out again, like animosity towards members of the church just was very visible. Apparently, at his wedding, actually, I think he was giving the best man speech and went on apparently a tirade against members of the church at the wedding. And they were like, dude, nobody wants to hear this. Like, what are you doing? Apparently, he was talking about this all the time. And then he meets, the soundbite you just played there was a Burton City Council candidate, Chris Johns. He's been talking with a bunch of different media outlets. A few days before the shooting and the attack on the church, he apparently, as he's canvassing the area, trying to be like, hey, I'm running for city council. How you doing? Just meeting people in the neighborhood. He knocks into Thomas Sanford. And apparently the two get talking about he had served in Iraq, but he also apparently says Sanford just was like, what do you think about people of this religion? And apparently talks about members of the church for a few minutes and then claims the last thing Sanford said was members of the church are, and I quote, the Antichrist. And so we're getting a lot of reports about there seems to be some very heavy animosity from Sanford towards members of the church. While police haven't said anything about the motive in their press conferences, this seems to be the recurring trend from what White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told Fox News in that initial report to these reports coming out. It really seems to be like this is the reoccurring trend and a very possible motive for this attack.
Adam, I think one of the really difficult things with a story like this is we know that the suspect here, Thomas Sanford, is dead. We can't ask him, right? And so you're left trying to draw these conclusions based on people who interacted with him or friends, things like that. And for you, following the story as you are, now understanding that, Mr. Sanford had lived in Utah for a time, I mean, what does that do for you as far as reporting? I imagine you're looking for anybody that might have known him, who lived here, that might be able to share more insight about his time here.
We definitely are. I mean, we did just discover this a little bit ago, so we're kind of in the early steps of doing that. But that is something I'm sure we're going to be doing. I know he lived here a long time ago, but we even got information that the New York Times actually found a person by name, Xander Winter, who actually rented to him in Jeremy Ranch. So there are some leads we can definitely follow. But yeah, like you mentioned, he was killed by police on scene, so we can't talk to him. I know that authorities told at least CNN, if not some other outlets, that his Sanford's family is actually apparently cooperating with the FBI and trying to help them in the investigation as well. So I know that at least they have that avenue to follow as well. But yeah, I mean, this just learning he has any tie to Utah definitely came as a shock because, I mean, the church is a global church. You have members all, I mean, I grew up in the church in New England, and there were some members there that had never been to Utah in their lives. So it's like seeing that there was a direct connection definitely took us by surprise this morning.
And I think that as we look at a case like this, of course, the day after, the Monday morning quarterback in all of us wants to know why this occurred. But you've described sort of the confluence of a number of things. He served in combat in Iraq. He may have had some stress related to that. There's some talk that he suffered from drug abuse, at least for some period of time. And then he has this relationship with a woman who's a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who it ends in some fashion poorly. But it was 10 years ago, but he sort of hangs on to this anger, and suddenly he just shows up at a church. I mean, and he's got guns, he's got an assault rifle, and some sort of incendiary device where he lights the place on fire. I mean, this took some level of planning, it seems.
It definitely seems like it. And obviously, at the end of the day, I mean, sure, we'd love to be able to ask him ourselves. I know we're not going to be able to. But I mean, like you said, I mean, combat veterans, PTSD, some kind of mental health issue, definitely could have been part of the equation. But maybe I can also just say, love is very powerful. And when it goes wrong, maybe that drives people to do things they wouldn't normally do. I don't know. I mean, we're kind of having to try to figure it out on a human level because, I mean, it's hard to fathom anyone wanting to do anything like this. But, I mean, it definitely seems like it was, even if it was spur of the moment, he had to be able to grab the weapons, drive the truck. There had to be some level of planning. But yeah, it just seems like there were a lot of different factors here that led him to allegedly do something that it's just hard to fathom, but we're trying to piece it together as best we can. We hope we can get more to share soon.
Thanks, Adam. That's KSL News Radio's Adam Small. And straight ahead, we're going to go live to Michigan and get the latest on this attack from KSL TV's Dan Rascone. Stay with us.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. A crash on US 189 at Deer Creek Reservoir has one lane of traffic open and it is alternating in opposite directions. Expect big delays from both Heber City and Provo. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers, Go Pave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact Go Pave Utah. GoPaveUtah.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
Provo Airport connects you to the world with a travel experience that's convenient, stress-free, and close to home. Whether you're a family heading to sunny beaches or a solo traveler chasing viral mountain views or a couple embarking on an overseas adventure, when you fly Provo, your journey starts with ease. From the moment you arrive at Provo Airport, convenience is built in. Skip the long drives, park steps from the terminal, and move quickly through check-in and security with short lines, a relaxed atmosphere, and welcoming staff. Provo Airport makes air travel simple and enjoyable. With service from Allegiant Air, American Airlines, and Breeze Airways, you can access hundreds of destinations across more than 60 countries. Anywhere you want to go, fly Provo. Visit flyprovoairport.com. That's flyprovoairport.com.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Oh, it's coming right up. It's Halloween, and the perfect place to shop for Halloween, it's NPS. What a nice place to save. Any of the 4 locations, they have the Halloween decorations. They have kids' costumes. They have so much of what you're going to need to really celebrate this spooky season. You're going to enjoy the atmosphere of NPS, and you save 20 to 70% off everything every day. And then the additional savings, the specials they have that, by the way, are different in each and every store, and it changes daily. You're going to really save money. And boy, don't we all need to do that right now. NPS, the Anchor Store, 1600 South Empire Road, the industrial store right across the street in Layton. They're on North Main Street in Orem, on North State Street. You're going to love NPS.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
My savings are gone.
Okay, where were they last?
Here, right before I spent them on that vacation to Aruba.
Weird. Not weird. Not saving now means no money later. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
The Michigan Church Attack. Special coverage on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to KSL News Radio. I'm Greg Skordas alongside Dave Cawley. Today we're talking about the shooting that occurred this weekend in Michigan at a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And Dave, I think as we look back and sort of try to recreate what happened here and the whys and the wherefores, we're learning so much more about this individual, the shooter, not only his ties to Utah, but his ties to the church itself and his sort of, almost like a hatred toward the church.
Yeah, Greg, we just heard in that first segment there from Adam Small, KSL News Radio reporter, about some of this background research on Thomas Sanford, and in particular, these articles that are bubbling up citing this local city council candidate who spoke to him just days before the shooting on Sunday, where Mr. Sanford allegedly was saying, that he believed Mormons were the Antichrist, making these very strong statements about a whole group of people. And then, of course, this attack where we know 4 people were killed and many more injured, just a horrifying bit of violence.
Yeah, here's ABC's Peter Haralambos with more details of what we know about the suspected shooter.
Investigators are still trying to piece together what might have motivated 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford to commit this act of horrific violence, but we're beginning to learn more about his past. He went to high school nearby. He served in the Marines, specifically in a vehicle recovery unit, serving in Iraq. And according to a local politician, he espoused hateful beliefs towards the Mormon faith, going as far as to call the Mormon people the Antichrist. The White House is saying that this is someone with a kind of deep-seated hatred of the Mormon people and pointing to that as the motivation of what might have triggered this attack. Certainly, though, investigators are still trying to figure out the planning that went into this, the specific motive, because there seems to have been a lot of time and energy and planning that went into this attack, in addition to dousing the church in gasoline and lighting it aflame, shooting victims. Mr. Sanford also had 4 IEDs in the back of his truck, improvised explosives made out of fireworks. So certainly there was a lot of thought that went into this horrific act.
Yesterday, we were able to interview KSL TV's Dan Rascon, who is still apparently in Michigan. Dan, thanks for joining us this morning. Are you still in Michigan?
Yes, I am. Great to be with you. Thanks very much.
So, Dan, tell us the latest on what we are learning about the shooter and the shooting. And I'm sure there's a mouthful there.
Yeah, no problem at all. This is really a shocking incident here, of course, out here. And people are still shocked here on day 3, still trying to recover from what happened here. But as you've been mentioning, as the reports that you've been talking about here, that's pretty much what we've learned now, a little bit more about the background of this shooter and why he may have done what he did. Now, investigators themselves are staying pretty tight-lipped about any kind of motive here. All they're calling it is a targeted act of violence. Now, was it targeted specifically at members of the Church of Jesus Christ or Latter-day Saints or not? Well, some of the insight now that we're getting from some of those who knew the shooter and even got a chance to talk to him. We've heard from that city council member that apparently he was out, kind of going door to door to meet people and greet people. He came across Thomas Sanford, and then Thomas, kind of launched into this Mormon Antichrist narrative. And the city council member saying he was very shocked, very surprised by what he was hearing, and he just seemed like that. But we also have heard some reports of, the father of Thomas Sanford saying he was a great son, a great husband, a great, father and everything. And so it's just, and everybody around him is pretty shocked about, what happened. He just didn't come across like that. And then now the New York Times, is coming out with a woman here right there in Utah, apparently, that rented a room to Mr. Sanford back in 2010. And he was doing kind of local business work as far as snow removal, landscaping, those kind of things, and was completely shocked by this. Never, this was a long time ago, of course, 15 years ago, but still, she just talked about how shocked she was about something like this. So, yes, we're learning a little bit more background here, and we're learning a little bit more about possible motives. But, again, investigators themselves are staying pretty tight-lipped.
Dan, have you heard anything about whether or not they're planning on providing any updates officially today, or are they kind of on lockdown while they figure this all out?
Yeah, the last word we got was, a press conference yesterday afternoon, and at that time, investigators pretty much said we're not going to have any more press conferences unless, something develops here. I've been checking, of course, their Facebook page where they basically have been announcing press conferences. We have not seen anything being announced as today, whether or not they're going to be actually, having a press conference or anything like that. So we're still waiting to see. Again, they are just, their big focus has always been on trying to heal the community, trying to help those that, are dealing with this kind of thing. They have counseling services set up, because this is really, again, a situation that has just rocked this little small town community of Grand Blanc, Michigan. We're just about 50 miles or so outside of Detroit here. This is a beautiful area, very wide open. There's plenty of kind of a suburban area, just a quiet, nice place with just beautiful, landscaping and beautiful people. And just, you just wouldn't think something like this. And that's why everybody's just still reeling from this. How could it happen here in our place?
Dan, I take it the crime scene is still cordoned off, and there are no ability for reporters to enter or get close to that. But have police indicated that they feel, and I think they confirmed this yesterday, that they feel they've accounted for all of the people that were there, so that we're not looking for more victims in the rubble?
Yes, that's correct. The latest word we had yesterday was that everybody in that building has been accounted for. But they did say that they're still kind of combing through the debris and everything like that. But it's good to be able to hear that everybody has been accounted for. I met a family yesterday that the father was hit with shrapnel, it sounds like, and then their 5-year-old daughter was also hit with shrapnel in the back. Just really a scary, devastating situation for them. They were very reserved, obviously, as far as they didn't want to go on camera. They didn't really want to tell their whole story, but they were there at the door. They looked like they hadn't slept in days, kind of. They just had that look of still just shock and what just happened. We can't believe what happened here. But again, this was a place of worship, a place of retreat, a place where people could come and be with each other and families could gather together. And it just turned into sheer terror. You've heard some of the accounts and some of the stories that came out of there. This truck suddenly hitting the chapel, the front of the chapel, breaking through the wall, at basically 10 o'clock in the morning, just after 10 o'clock in the morning. And then just all chaos broke loose, and then the fire breaks out. And that fire, just to see that entire chapel up in flames, people running for their lives. I did talk to the sheriff here late yesterday. He talked about the heroes here. We heard from a bishop of the ward, just his feelings and what, the members are kind of dealing with and kind of how they're just thankful for the community and their love and support. And so, again, this community really just trying to be strong through all of this.
Dan, we're about done with the segment here, but I did want to ask you, as you are, a reporter in this community, you've flown in, folks there don't know you from anybody, but you've got to knock on doors and try to get those stories. You just talked about that family who they were willing to share some information with you, but didn't want to be in the center of, and I can understand this, a national, international kind of news story. Yeah. How difficult is that for you just to navigate those kinds of conversations with these people?
Well, it's a difficult situation in the sense that, first of all, this is an international, national type story here where you've got media just everywhere. It is just amazing. In yesterday's press conference, there must have been, 50 cameras or so. It was just incredible to see the number of media that are here. And obviously, members of the church are being very guarded in regards to what they say and how they say it. There's been some of the leadership of the church that have sent out notes to say, don't talk to the media, let the investigators, do their job and those kind of things. And so we're getting a little bit of, pushback from that. But at the same time, everybody is very friendly. Everybody is very nice. And it is. It's tough to be knocking on doors in a situation like this. Anytime you're dealing with this kind of terror and this kind of violence, and you're going to people, it's just tough to be able to see people in that kind of state of mind.
Thanks for joining us again today, Dan. That was Dan Rescone from KSL TV. And we are 12 hours, 30 minutes, and 20 seconds away from a midnight,
you're just counting down the seconds,
tonight government shutdown. We don't know what's going to happen with that, but we'll bring you live from D.C. A guest interview after the break to see where we are.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour. Today we're hearing from the bishop of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints ward that was attacked by a shooter who set the building on fire.
As you might expect, our members are quite shaken in spirit and in body, and it hurts.
Grand Blanc Ward Bishop Jeffrey Schaub says, though it's been incredible to see how many people have offered their help in one way or another, he says he believes in relying on Jesus Christ will help them get through what he's calling the biggest trial many of he and his congregants will ever face. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth addressed senior military leaders at Quantico in Virginia. Hegseth criticized some leaders who he claims have been lowering standards in what he called the War Department. He also outlined his vision for a new direction for the department, highlighting 10 new directives, including new standards for combat arms positions, regular PT tests, and changes to grooming standards.
Would you want him serving with fat or unfit or undertrained troops? Or alongside people who can't meet basic standards? Or in a unit where standards were lowered so certain types of troops could make it in? In a unit where leaders were promoted for reasons other than merit, performance, and warfighting? The answer is not just no, it's hell no.
Hegseth also said that anyone who doesn't agree with him can resign. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 162 points to 46,153. Coming up, we've got some wet roads to deal with here as we get into the middle part of the day. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 9:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Hey, this is Dan, the laptop man from PC Laptops. Imagine struggling with a slow, outdated computer that takes forever to load anything, that randomly freezes up and is filled with viruses and malware.
Now picture yourself with a powerful desktop or laptop that runs smoothly and efficiently, making your work and entertainment seamless. Take one home today. The new 2025 S1 desktop or SM3 laptop for only $999. You heard that right, $999. You get a blazing fast processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing storage for $999. What else do you get? Lifetime service warranty, and we have 12 months special financing on approved credit. Hurry in right now because supplies are limited, because at PC Laptops, we love you. Just check us out at PCLaptops.com. $999, PCLaptops.com.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date. Your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected. Your floor mats are cleaned and delivered. And your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with the Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
Mortgage questions don't always wait for business hours. And now, neither do we. The live and local mortgage experts at Golden West Credit Union are always available when you need them, day or night, weekends, and even holidays. Whether you're starting your home search or just need answers, expert help is just a call away. Call 801-786-8400 to talk with a real mortgage expert on your schedule. Golden West Credit Union, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 440574.
We'll take care of you.
Hi, Utah families. We all would do anything we could to boost our children's confidence and set them up for success. And Smile Zemi can help. Smile Zemi is the personalized learning tablet designed for students from kindergarten through 5th grade. Smile Zemi adapts to your child's level and learning style, delivering engaging lessons anytime, anywhere. Each lesson offers just right challenges, not too easy, not too hard, keeping learning fresh, motivating, and confidence building. Visit smilezemi.com to learn more.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Here's Cormac Bone.
A crash on US 189 at Deer Creek Reservoir has one lane of traffic open and is alternating passage for either direction of travel. Still expect big delays from both Heber City and Provo. Still a bit of slowing as you come out of Utah County toward Bangerter Highway after Point of the Mountain. And crashes across the Wasatch Front from our morning drive had cleared up otherwise. Common Spirit, hospitals, clinics, and caregivers, all connected to advanced healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today is going to be mostly cloudy with some scattered rain showers. We're already seeing it across parts of the Wasatch Front. It will be cooler, highs in the 70s. That'll continue into tonight, but it should clear up by tomorrow morning. Right now, mostly cloudy, rainy in some spots, 66 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
A high-stakes showdown is underway in Washington, and we're just hours away from a full-blown government shutdown. And with the threat of a government shutdown, there's also the threat to many federal jobs. ABC News senior political correspondent Rachel Scott is covering developments on Capitol Hill.
If the government shuts down, as many as 4 million federal employees could go without a paycheck. 2 million troops could be forced to work without pay, leaving military families in limbo.
We're not talking about faceless humans in a faraway office.
Heather Campbell's husband is a major in the Air Force in Alabama.
We're talking about men and women and moms and dads and grandparents and sisters and uncles, and they want to show up and they want to do a good job and they want to be honest, hardworking Americans. And they're getting caught in the middle of this political rhetoric.
She worries about making ends meet for their 3 kids.
Wow. And like I said, we're just a few hours away. At midnight tonight Eastern time, the government is expected, unless something changes, to shut down. We've got Cami Mondo, Deseret News congressional correspondent, with us. And Cami, what can you tell us about things that may be happening now to potentially avert this?
Yeah, so what we're going to be seeing today is, Republicans and Democrats in the Senate are going to be having their separate meetings later this afternoon to kind of strategize the path forward. They're not going to be talking to each other, at least not for right now. But Democrats are kind of facing this question of, do we back this GOP bill and avert a shutdown, or do we stand firm on our demands and let the government shut down? So I think that's really the dynamic that you're looking at right now.
We were noticing this morning, Cammie, looking at some of the reporting that came out yesterday about this meeting between these, Senate leaders and the White House, that really it seemed like there was an effort, I would say probably on both parties' side, to present this to the public as, well, the other side is going to lose face here. How much of this do you think is just the optics of the thing versus the actual procedural matter?
It does seem that right now it's more political posturing than actually finding a solution to this. Both sides, rather than, budging either way or trying to find a compromise, like you said, they're just trying to blame the other side, make it seem as if the other one is controlling this completely. Democrats came out first to say that, Republicans heard their demands but aren't budging. You had Republicans come out after to say that Democrats are asking for things that they just can't give. And so you're absolutely right that this is more so like political messaging at this point. We're about 12 hours away from the deadline, and it doesn't seem like we have any movement on either side.
Cami, yesterday we interviewed one of our own congressional representatives who indicated that Congress, or at least the House, has passed. I mean, they're ready to move on with at least a continuing resolution, but now the Senate is looking for 60 votes. They've got 53 Republicans. They need 7 Democrats to climb on board. He was making it sound as though he kept using the word Schumer shutdown, that if it doesn't go, if we don't come to an agreement, that it's going to reflect more poorly on Democrats and Republicans. Are you getting a sense one way or the other on Capitol Hill?
That's definitely the argument that Republicans are bringing up because it did pass the House. Earlier this month it passed with mostly Republican votes. There was only one Democrat who backed it. And so the Republican House already got it through. And so that's what GOP leadership is saying, is that they're not even going to bring the House back this week, saying that it is now on the Senate to pass what Republicans have already put on the table. And so that's Republicans' argument, is that, they need just a few Democrats to cross party lines. But Democrats, on the other hand, are saying that Republicans control all of government. If it shuts down, it's on their hands. And so you are really seeing that, Republicans are saying that Democrats are being too stubborn to avoid this shutdown, while Democrats are saying they have to come to the table since they control everything.
With the short clock that we're looking at here, Cammie, 12 hours, I mean, you're basically, if you're a federal employee, I think you're having to prepare for this as a reality, right? We've seen shutdowns averted at the last minute in the past, but from what I'm hearing from you, it really doesn't seem like that's what we're expecting to see happen this afternoon.
Absolutely. So federal agencies and, different offices here on Capitol Hill have already started to send out guidance of what to do in case of a government shutdown, especially because, we hadn't seen one since 2017, 2018. So it's been several years since we've actually experienced a government shutdown. And so, you had the White House Office of Management Budget sent some guidance out last week. I got some information from some Capitol Hill offices kind of saying, they have to deem some employees essential, some not essential, which offices are going to be open, which services are going to be closed. And so they're starting to get information of what this is going to look like. And all of that is going to start being initiated tomorrow morning, when these offices are supposed to be open, but the government may not be closed.
Is the Senate active? I mean, are there people there? Are there bodies there that if we needed to get to a vote between now and midnight, you've got the necessary people, or are they on a recess, or do you know, Cammie?
Yeah, so the Senate is in today. They will have votes at some point this afternoon or evening. They are planning on voting on that House-passed CR again at some point today. They don't have the schedule out just yet. I think they're working through some time agreements. But the plan is to vote on that House CR, the one that failed, almost 2 weeks ago in the Senate. They're going to try on it again. It might fail again. That's what we're really going to be watching an eye on, is if that's going to pass or fail before the deadline at midnight.
You've got a busy day in front of you.
Yes, it might be, pretty long, but we'll see.
Yeah, you talked about the CR, the continuing resolution. That is, sadly, just another sort of stopgap. It's a 7-week stay, sort of 7 weeks we'll continue the resolution to fund the government, but then we're going to be here again in 7 weeks, right? If the CR passes.
Right. That is part of the argument as well, is that Republicans are saying Democrats are being so stubborn because this isn't even an end-all solution. This really is, like you said, a 7-week extension to just, punt the deadline to another date. And so that's really why Republicans are saying that Democrats are being so stubborn in this. But Democrats are just asking for more policy concessions from Republicans that Republicans say don't belong in such a short-term extension. So that is definitely part of the conversation.
I think this is really interesting, Cammie. You're getting into the heart of something here, which is this debate over whether the proper way to keep doing this government funding is these, continuing resolutions versus just passing, its quote-unquote clean budget for the year. And really the Democrats are in a tight spot because they don't have a lot of leverage, and so they've found this place where they can maybe exert some influence or attempt to push through some of their policy priorities. But the flip side to that is, of course, that then the Republicans in the Senate and the White House can point to them and say, yeah, it's a Schumer shutdown. So kind of probably really depends on who's going to give in this game of chicken potentially in the next 12 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, this really is their only point of leverage they have at all in Washington right now. They don't control the House, Senate, or White House. And so really their only power is in the Senate when they can hold things up like this. And so that's really where they're going to try and play their hand to see if they can get anything. But like you said, that does just play right into Republicans' messaging where they can say, well, look, it is Democrats' fault. We're doing all that we can. And so it's definitely more of a political posturing more than anything else. And it's really Democrats trying to grapple with the fact that they really have no leverage in Washington right now.
Thank you, Cammie. That was Cammie Mondo, Deseret News congressional correspondent. And Dave Colley, my wife works for the federal government. She works for the judiciary, for the 10th Circuit. My son is a colonel and a doctor in the Air Force, so we may have two still working because they're essential employees, but unpaid family members here in about 12 hours.
Yeah, get your checkbook ready because you might be having to float some bills for a little bit.
Dad might be doing a bailout. The Charlie Kirk Tour is coming back to Utah, and Utah State University says they're ready to secure the event. We'll discuss more about that after the break. That's coming up next, streaming live at kslnewsradio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. The other night, I had the chance to see a brand new play at Hale Center Theater, and it's the musical comedy Murders of 1940. And I'm just going to read what I wrote to Sally Dietlein right after I got out to my truck. I just had to let her know how much I enjoyed it, and I said, a black and white screwball film noir comedy complete with Nazis. You have outdone yourself. This is so unique. The entire play, save only one character, is in black and white. Sally wrote back and said, yeah, I think it's the first time we've ever done, and she used this term, grayscape. It is so unique. You are going to love it. And then just down the hall, Sister Act is showing, and all kinds of wonderful performances still to come, like Frozen. We've already got our tickets for our grandkids. Go to hct.org or get your tickets at the box office. And don't forget, get your 2026 season tickets.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. The crash on US 189 at Deal Creek Reservoir still has only one lane of traffic open and is alternating passage for either direction of travel. Expect those big delays from both Heber City and Provo. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers, Go Pave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact Go Pave Utah, gopavutah.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. Stroke risk may increase. Eliquis can cause serious and potentially fatal bleeding. Don't take if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or bleed longer. A spinal injection increases blood clot risk, which may cause paralysis. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or bruising, or back pain, tingling, numbness, muscle weakness, or incontinence. Aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
September means it's time for Any Hour Services free furnace sale. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and as summer comes to a close and falls right around the corner, the weather gets, well, perfect. And when the weather's perfect, people need a little extra incentive to replace their heating and cooling system. That's where Any Hour Services free furnace sale comes in. For the month of September, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. And there's no catch. There's no raising the price on the air conditioner first. There's no making you buy the most expensive air conditioner to qualify. There's none of that. There's just a desire to keep our technicians working while the weather's mild and a genuine appreciation of you for helping us keep them busy. So if you've been thinking about replacing your old furnace and air conditioner and want to know exactly how much you can save during our free furnace sale, call Any Hour Services today and schedule a free estimate. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
You still got it, but your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Sponsored by Pfizer.
How can you free your team from time-consuming office tasks? Amazon Business. Smart business buying tools enable buyers to find and purchase items fast so they can focus on strategy and growth. Free up your teams and focus on your future. Learn more at amazonbusiness.com. This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
Join Mike Stevens of Capital Wealth Advisors for Retire Right Radio, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. That's Retire Right Radio with Mike Stevens, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for about 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop texts, stopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The new Inside Sources.
Charlie Kirk's tour will return to Utah today. Turning Point USA is coming to Utah State University and will, at the Utah State University attendees will hear from, boy, am I a mess today. The Utah State University attendees will hear from Senator Mike Lee, Governor Spencer Cox, former Utah Representative Jason Chaffetz, and Arizona Representative Andy Biggs. Here's KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla with more on this event at USU.
The university says they were already planning to have increased security. Turning Point USA chapter president Caitlin Griffiths tells KSL TV the news of the American Comeback Tour stopping at the school was not taken well by everyone.
We already had talked with campus security and the local police about how it was going to need intense security. There was a lot of protests on campus originally when they heard that Charlie Kirk was coming.
USU released a statement about the event saying it will be held inside and they plan on working with local authorities to keep it safe and calm. The tours hosted different speakers for each campus since Kirk's murder at Utah Valley University. Tonight, event goers will hear from Senator Mike Lee, Governor Spencer Cox, former Utah Representative Jason Chaffetz, and Arizona Representative Andy Biggs. Alexandria Bonilla, KSL News Radio.
We did reach out to USU for an interview. They declined, but my co-host Dave Colley has looked into what level of security they have there, and what are you learning?
Well, okay, here's the thing, Greg. USU wouldn't talk to us, but they did send us a link to this, I guess you'd call it an article detailing their security measures, and I was reading through here trying to get a real sense of what is this going to look like, right? If somebody's going to this event and they are concerned about safety and security, what should they expect? And I got to this paragraph. I just have to read this for you. This is verbatim. It says, USU's Department of Public Safety has robust security plans for events on USU's campus that meet industry standards and best practices. These measures include comprehensive threat assessments, detailed security planning, deployment of diverse safety resources, effective crowd management, close protection for the speaker, clear communication and coordination, and readiness for crisis response. So let's try to tease out what any of that actually means.
What it means is, AI, write me a paragraph on security and use some big words. So what it means is you should feel some comfort that they've got, robust security. They've got it figured out. I in fairness to Utah State, and it would have been nice had they joined us today, but there is a high level of security for something like this. It's not the first event from Charlie Kirk's organization since he was killed, but it's the first Utah event.
Yeah.
And so that you would expect there to be some higher level of security. This one is indoors. I think it's at the Civic Center, the what's it called, where they play basketball.
Right.
Yeah, the Spectrum. And so that gives law enforcement and security at least a more confined area that they have to secure than rooftops and things like that. But still, that can hold a lot of people too. And
yeah.
You'd expect metal detectors. You'd expect a lot of things. What you just read is about as vague as it could be.
And to be fair, if you are somebody who is designing the security plan, you probably don't want to broadcast to the world, here's everything that we're doing, so that somebody reading between the lines can maybe see the gaps in your coverage, right? But yes, I did have to roll my eyes a little bit when further down in this paragraph it says these protocols are data-driven, scenario-based, and multi-tiered. Okay, but my question is, if I'm going to this event, like, what size bag am I allowed to bring? Does it need to be, so... Anyway, if anyone wants to go to this event, if they're planning to go up there, and you do have questions, there are some specifics, I will say, on the USU website that you can look into. They did send us some information that said, yes, backpacks and bags, there are some dimensions that will not be allowed, so larger than about 6.5 by 4.5 inches. If you're bringing that bag in, not going to go. You can have like a small purse. They don't want people bringing in all kinds of like political signs, stuff like that. So... And also there was a lot of, I think, talk about the fact that, they're going to be putting people through metal detectors, as you said. And, if you are right or wrong, if you're concerned about your safety, there are laws that govern where you can take firearms in the state of Utah. All that still applies here, right?
Yeah, I was surprised at that, though, because, and I appreciate what you just said. I'm reading another detail that they posted. And I don't know if I'm reading this correctly. It says, everyone going to the event will pass through magnetometers. Individuals who bring a firearm must follow Utah law for firearms on campuses and possess a Utah concealed carry permit. I would have expected, Dave, that they would just flat out ban firearms. I mean, there would be no reason. Maybe there is a reason, because we did pass some legislation that allows for the carrying of firearms on our campuses. But for an event like this, especially given what's going on here, I mean, so you can walk in with a firearm as long as you show them your concealed carry permit. I'm surprised that maybe they felt like they had no choice with Utah law.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. If you go back into history, famously a number of years ago, there was a big tug-of-war between the University of Utah and the state legislature. The University of Utah that wanted to essentially ban carrying of concealed weapons on campus, and the legislature saying that the university did not have the authority to do that. And so it is written into state code what you as a Utahn carrying a concealed carry permit are allowed to do in regards to carrying a weapon on college campuses. So I read that in this statement as kind of an acknowledgement that, the university cannot on its own tell you that you can't bring a concealed weapon if you're doing so legally according to the law in the state of Utah. So I think the idea there being, look, if you're planning on doing that, you better be really up to speed on what the law is. And maybe there's a more common sense argument here to say, if you are having all of these, data-driven, multi-tiered, however they want to phrase it, security measures, think to yourself about whether or not bringing a weapon into that environment, even if you're legally allowed, is the smartest thing.
Yeah. And I'm sure people will still, because some people feel like that's a necessity and they feel more comfortable with that. Like you say, backpacks and bags larger than 6.5 by 4.5 inches, that's a really small bag, will not be allowed. Purses no larger than 6.5 by 4.5 will be searched, and no outside signs allowed, and no reentry. In other words, once you leave, you're not coming back in. Yeah. So that's interesting. I did want to follow up with one other thing, Dave, before we take a break. Yesterday, the alleged killer of Charlie Kirk appeared in court. That was Tyler Robinson. He appeared for the virtually. He did not. He wasn't there in person, but his attorneys appeared, and his new court-appointed attorneys appeared. They indicated to the judge that they weren't ready to do anything yet. They asked for 30 days. They're coming back the end of October. The state indicated that it was providing what's called discovery, so they're going to get all the information. It's quite voluminous. And so I just wanted to answer a question that a lot of people have been asking me, which is, hey, the evidence seems to be fairly compelling. Mm-hmm. Why are we going through all this? And I would just say this, having practiced law for 43 years, that he's presumed innocent. The defense does want to see the evidence. They want to make sure that the state has a case, a strong case, before they do anything. Will there be a preliminary hearing in this case? Some people said, why have a preliminary hearing? The evidence is overwhelming. Because you still want to see what the evidence is, and the defense may want to review that, and so they may schedule a preliminary hearing. Yesterday they indicated that they will, but that'll probably be, since the next hearing is the end of October, talking about maybe a preliminary hearing in December or later, but we're talking months down the road. And I know we're sort of digressing from the USU thing, but I just wanted to let our listeners know that there's some updates on that particular situation.
And I appreciate you saying that, Greg, because I think one of the challenges that we face in such a public event like this is remembering we don't have the whole picture yet. And there are rules about what can be admitted into evidence in court, and the process is important.
Right. And you have a case like this, especially a death penalty case, that we're going to be revisiting 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. We actually have a case we're going to talk about after the break that you know a lot about, a 40-year-old death penalty case. We're going to learn more from Dave Colley about that after the break.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. For one family in Utah, the shootings in Grand Blanc are hitting close to home. They went to that church in that building for 22 years. Gail Gravenstreeter and her family only moved to Utah 5 years ago. She says her family has been calling their friends and feeling the disbelief of so many terrible things happening in such a short amount of time.
Many of my friends said that they were in church when they got the text, and a couple of them had to leave and just process this outside where they just sobbed.
She says Grand Blanc is a small town, and this really makes it feel like there is nowhere really safe anymore. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump is right now speaking at the White House with various members of his staff. They are making an announcement about a deal with pharmaceutical company Pfizer. We'll have more on that announcement throughout the day. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 105 points to 46,210. Coming up, we've still got emergency traffic and weather. Showers today. We'll check that next. KSL News Time 10:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent from Alpine Home Medical, and I'm humbled to win Utah's Best of State for 2025 for the 15th year in a row. After 28 years, we're all about you. Over 1,700 5-star Google reviews and a 4.8 customer satisfaction score to prove it. We'll keep working hard for you. I've spent this year advocating with lawmakers for better Medicare reimbursement, ensuring you always have the best access to medical supplies you need. From Idaho Falls to St. George, our 11 stores are your home for comfort. When you hear Alpine Home Medical, think of that best of state experience every single time. Visit us online at alpinehomemedical.com. That's alpinehomemedical.com.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee. based on the value of our client's portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Here's Cormac Bone.
US 189 still looks pretty ugly right by Deer Creek Reservoir. Alternating passage for both north and southbound is causing buildup on the road. Account for delays coming from both Heber City and Provo. Otherwise, across the Wasatch Front, rain in the Ogden and Bluffdale areas is causing some wet roads, so watch your speed as you're driving. And delays persist thanks to construction on eastbound Pioneer Crossing as you approach the I-15 junction. While you're planning your day, plan for comfort too with the Good Feet store. Find the location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, we're looking at 70 degrees and showers. Then it dries out on Wednesday and Thursday, but rain returning for the weekend. Right now, it's mostly cloudy, rainy in some spots along the Wasatch Front, and 66 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Actually, check that. It's now 61 degrees. Whew. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
In the last segment, we talked about the Charlie Kirk ongoing tour, and we also spoke about his alleged assailant, that is Tyler Robinson, who is facing the death penalty in Utah. I have been personally involved in death penalty cases, both as a prosecuting attorney and as a defense attorney. And my co-host today, Dave Colley, is involved in a number of cold cases, including death penalty cases. I want to talk to you about one in just a minute, but these cases, Dave, can go on for so long. I mean, we have an example, just Ralph Menzies. We're trying to decide whether he should be executed. And the problem is that in the 39 years since the homicide it has occurred, let's face it, he's convicted. It's not an allegation anymore. He's suffered from dementia to the point where he may not be competent to be executed. He's not going home anytime soon or ever. Right. But the death penalty may very well be off the table. Whereas looking back, and I'm not trying to, say one way or the other how I feel about the death penalty, had they just pled him to life in prison without the possibility of parole, we wouldn't even be having a conversation about him anymore. Right. You're involved in another case. This is the Lovell case, Douglas Lovell. It's a murder that is alleged to have occurred August 11th, 1985. So we're past the 40-year mark on that one, but it's having some interesting twists and turns.
Really interesting stuff, and I'm really grateful for the chance to talk to you, Greg, of all people that I get to sit in here with today, because I think you and I both have perspective. Like you, I don't take a public position on whether the death penalty is right or wrong. That's not what we're here to talk about. But let me kind of just give you the background on the Lovell case, because it's one that I think a lot of people don't know about. In April of 1985, this South Ogden woman, Joyce Yost, was out to dinner with a friend. She left a restaurant in Clearfield, and as she was going out to her car, a man approached her and basically, he followed her and then in his car followed her home. Outside of Joyce Yost's apartment in South Ogden, this man approaches the door of her car. She's getting out to go inside her home. He asks if she would like to go out for a drink. She plays him off, says no. And this man then forces his way into the vehicle and commits a just horrific sexual assault. Ends up abducting Joyce Yost, takes her from her place in his car to his home in the Clearfield Sunset area, and then holds her over the next several hours and continues to assault her. Now, Joyce is a mother of two kids. Her daughter's an adult at the time, and she's got a son who had just recently left to go off to dental school. So she lives alone. she talks this man into releasing her with a promise that she would not go to police. If you just let me go, take me home, I won't tell anybody about this. And so he does. He drives her home, lets her out, and as soon as she gets through the door in her home, she breaks down in tears. She calls her sister and says, "I have been raped." The sister tells her, "Joyce, if you don't call the police, I will." So, Joyce has this fear that if she says anything, that this man is going to make good on a threat and come back and harm her. But she calls police. The South Ogden police come and interview her. And because this, assault happened partially in Clearfield, they get in touch with Clearfield police. A Clearfield detective comes out and interviews Joyce. Now, this was tape recorded. I've come to know that detective, that former Clearfield detective, very well, and have listened to this recording that he made of his interview just hours after Joyce was assaulted by this man. And it is gut-wrenching.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But the upshot is this detective did a fantastic job of listening and validating Joyce, got really critical details, and with a matter of hours, he's identified and arrested the suspect, Douglas Lovell. So during the summer of 1985, this case, this criminal rape case, is proceeding through the court. Joyce goes and testifies in a preliminary hearing, and it's set for a trial in August of 1985. And 10 days before that trial is supposed to happen, Joyce Yost disappears. Now, the trial gets delayed, but it doesn't get canceled, which is an interesting kind of wrinkle here, because in a lot of cases, if you don't have an accuser, you don't have a case.
Right.
But because Joyce had testified at a preliminary hearing, they're able to take this case in front of a jury. Douglas Lovell is convicted and he's sent to prison. 7 years go by before police develop enough information to charge him with the murder of Joyce Yost. Now, Joyce's body has never been found. We have no physical proof that she's dead aside from
Still?
That's correct. 40 years later, we don't know where Joyce is. But there was a large blood stain that they found on the mattress inside her apartment the day after she was reported missing. So this case, it's so fascinating. I'll just say this is the subject of Cold Season 2. If it seems like I'm passionate about it, it's because I've spent a lot of time reporting the case.
So Lovell was granted bail while he was pending trial on the sexual assault.
Oh, Greg, I wish it was that simple.
Okay.
No. In fact, part of what I uncovered in the reporting of this case is that a Davis County judge had ordered a no-bail hold on Lovell because of the risk to Joyce Yost.
I would have expected that.
But there was a secondary case that was happening at the same time where Lovell was suspected in a car theft case in Salt Lake County. So a Salt Lake detective came and picked him up from the Davis County jail, took him to the Salt Lake County jail to be booked on this car theft chase, and the Salt Lake County jail didn't check to see that he had a no-bail hold,
my word.
And they booted him out.
Because a car theft wasn't a big, serious case that you'd hold somebody without bail.
Correct. So he's out free, but the investigators don't realize it in the lead up to this trial. Long story short, Lovell ends up in a situation where he's caught on a hidden. That's
horrible.
It is awful.
Yeah.
It never should have happened.
Right.
In 1992, Lovell was charged with this capital homicide. You allegedly murdered a witness to prevent her from testifying against you. That is a death penalty type murder case. Plea negotiations take place, and ultimately, the Weber County Attorney's Office offers Lovell a deal. If you lead us to Joyce Yost's body, we will take death penalty off the table. So Lovell tells them, I left her body up on the old Snow Basin Road, and if we go up there and search, we will find her. They go up and search. They don't find her. Lovell, he's now pleaded guilty to this crime.
So now what do you do?
But the deal isn't good because he hasn't led him to the body, and so a judge sentences him to death. That was in 1993, okay? We go almost 20 years. Well, let's see, 93... to 2011, the Utah Supreme Court ends up overturning that death sentence because of a technical error that the judge made advising Lovell of his rights during his sentencing in 1993. So that set the stage in 2015 for a trial where now you're 30 years on from the crime. Lovell has a trial. His guilt is already established, so the trial is all about...
It's a penalty phase.
Right.
Okay.
Will we give you the death sentence again, or will you get a chance for life with a chance?
Because he's
for
already
parole?
pled guilty.
He's
And
pleaded
that
guilty,
wasn't set aside.
and all of this stuff is. His guilty plea was withdrawn, but the record is so strong, even his own admissions, in
Right.
court, right? So the defense team in 2015 decides we're not even going to argue innocence. We're just going to concede it.
Okay.
Jury in 2015 delivers another death penalty. Lovell appeals. So for the last 10 years, we've been fighting the second death sentence. And just last year, the Utah Supreme Court again overturned Lovell's second death sentence. So we're basically at a point 40 years later in this case where they are going to go in front of another jury and try to get a third death sentence for the crime that happened 40 years ago, all while we don't know where Joyce Yost's body is.
Still. Well, I want you to hold that thought.
Yeah.
Because there's
I've got more to say, Greg.
I hope you do. We're going to come back. I want to talk, actually, before we pivot, I do want to stay on this subject for a minute. Stay with us as we have Dave Colley describe more about this Douglas Lovell case. Even for me as an attorney, this is fascinating. We'll be right back.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
Ben, I want to tell people how they can look and
Emergency
feel
traffic brought to you by Mountain America. US 189 still looks pretty ugly right by Deer Creek Reservoir. Alternating passage from both north and southbound is causing buildup on the road. Account for delays coming from both Heber City and Provo. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
Oh, tell people how they can look and feel 10 years younger, because it's something you and I already know.
We lost weight with the SOTA weight loss program. I lost 34 pounds, 3 years ago now?
Yeah.
And I do feel younger. I have more energy, all because I worked through this wonderful program, SOTA weight loss.
And I let go of 70 pounds of fat weight over 5 months, and I actually did get comments, you look incredibly younger. It really felt good.
And I love the example I set for my kids to show them, look, we can celebrate things without having to eat stuff that's bad for our bodies.
And what helps is the accountability. And right now, this is the best way to do it. SOTA's bringing back their most popular offer of the season. Join now, and your partner joins for free in the Partner Program.
So you and your spouse, or you and your best friend, get going with SOTA weight loss.
They're the #1 weight loss company in America for client satisfaction and client results. You can find out by going to their website, SOTAweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Because SOTA is, say it with me, Amanda, state of the art.
Ticket packages for the Utah Mammoth 2025-26 season are available now. From full season and half-season packages to mini plans and other flexible options, choose the ticket package that fits you best and be part of the action all season long. Call or text 801-325-PUCK to talk with a rep, or visit NHL.com/Utah/tickets/season tickets to learn more.
Tonight on KSL, what 3 words?
Tremor, beeline, glee.
What are they for?
Granny months receptions.
And why does this guy wish he had them?
They could find it in the precise location where I was and got me help.
KSL takes you on a ride that you're sure to come back from. When your location comes down to just 3 words. And how to find your 3 words.
That makes our job so much easier.
The 3-word locator. Tonight at 10 on KSL and the KSL Plus app.
Let's go! You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Workdays can be unpredictable, but your workwear shouldn't be. With the Cintas Apparel Plus program, you'll have freshly laundered garments for everyone on your team delivered every week. Cintas has workwear for just about any job imaginable, with high-performance fabrics and an uncompromising fit that stretches and moves with you. Don't leave looking and feeling good to chance. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
Inside Sources.
So I'm joined in studio today by Dave Colley, and Dave, you got me hanging here. I listened to your 8 or 9 day podcast on the Uinta Triangle, and I every time I'd get in my car, I'd listen to another segment of it, and it was incredible. But this one's equally interesting, and for me, just the crime story behind it, the true crime. We're talking about the murder case involving defendant Douglas Lovell and the victim Joyce Yost, and just what happened there. So we didn't quite finish. Can you tell us, kind of bring us up to speed on that case now?
For sure, yeah. And so this is all encapsulated in Season 2 of the Cold podcast. I'll just give a plug to my own show. If you're interested in this story, it's available anywhere you get your podcast. Just search for Cold and go to Season 2, Justice for Joyce. So as we were laying out before the break, we've got this 40-year-old homicide case where the suspect, Douglas Lovell, he's admitted his guilt on the record, went to trial in 2015, didn't even contest that he did the crime.
Admitted his guilt to the homicide.
To the homicide of Joyce Yost.
And to the assault.
Yep, to prevent her from testifying that he had allegedly raped her. So, here we are 4 decades later, and the lingering questions, are not whether or not Lovell's guilty of the crime. He said he was, but it's where did he take Joyce Yost's body, because we don't have it, we don't know, and whether or not he will ever actually face death. He's been twice sentenced to death and twice had that overturned.
So with respect to the death penalty, I'll just digress for just a second. We talk about aggravating circumstances, and in order to make a homicide case an aggravated murder, you have an aggravating circumstance, and in this case, a very clear one would be to prevent a witness from testifying.
Correct.
And so that's the hook, at least one of the hooks. He may have several, but so what's the status of the case now?
So, yeah, the reason why we're talking about this today, Greg, is because there was a court hearing yesterday that, I was...
Literally
yesterday morning, yeah, a virtual court hearing where, Lovell appeared, his attorney, so his defense attorney, who just last year succeeded in getting his second death sentence overturned, basically said he won't talk to me anymore. For the last month, I've been trying to get Lovell to talk to me. He won't respond to me. He won't take my calls. He won't communicate at all. We've had a complete breakdown in communication. And so she told a judge up in Davis County, I need off the case because I cannot, assist him. Well, the problem with that is, of course, in a death penalty case, as a defense lawyer, you have to have special qualifications and experience.
We call it a Rule 8 qualification.
Exactly.
Or some
right.
people call it death qualified.
You know it, and you have it. I
right.
believe.
Yes.
So if she is allowed to withdraw, then the judge has to find somebody else. And it's a 40-year-old case with, I've been trying to jam through the basic details for the last 10 minutes, but you can imagine as a lawyer, you've got so much homework that you have to do on a case
Sure.
like this. And so what that means is Lovell is waiting for a new sentencing hearing because his last death sentence was overturned, but this switch in the attorneys, which the judge approved, means we're a year away.
So a sentencing hearing, Dave, would be what I would call a guilt phase trial.
That's correct.
With a jury of 12.
That's
Who
correct.
have to decide whether or not there's sufficient evidence to establish beyond a reasonable doubt that the penalty of death is appropriate rather than life in prison, or maybe life without the possibility of parole, which opens another can of worms that I don't know that we want to get to.
Right.
Because that wasn't the law when it occurred, and doesn't apply now. And anyway, go ahead.
So I think what's really interesting here, though, is, I've been for a number of years now staying in touch with Joyce Yost's family, and in particular close contact with her daughter, Kim Salazar. Now, Kim was an adult when her mom disappeared, but for her entire adult life, for 40 years, she has lived with this case. She has shown up to every court hearing. She is in contact with the Weber County Attorney's Office step by step by step. And, I asked her yesterday, how does she feel? Because what was ironic to me is the judge made Lovell yesterday say on the record that he was waiving his right to a speedy trial. So as a criminal defendant, he has a right to have the sentencing hearing done as quickly as possible.
Right.
And the judge needs him to say, I waive that. And I had to just kind of think to myself, he's waiving his right to a speedy trial in a case that happened 40 years ago.
Right.
And at the same time, the victim's daughter, Kim, is telling me, where are our rights?
Where my right to a speedy trial.
Right. So, because of the way death penalty law works in Utah and in the United States, everything is focused on making sure we don't screw anything up, that the suspect's rights are maintained as strictly as possible. But that means that every little piece of legal minutia is going to get argued over.
As it has in this case twice, because his death penalty has been flipped twice.
That's correct.
So something did go awry in each of those occasions to get us here.
According to the Utah Supreme Court.
Right.
Yep. And, of course, when you're talking about his first death sentence being overturned, that was a technical error. So that's a judge who, during the sentencing, was reading a list of these are the rights that, Mr. Lovell, you have waived. And the legislature had changed just minor wording there, but the judge was using the outdated version. And the Supreme Court said, no, you can't make that kind of a mistake in a case with this kind of consequence.
Sure. Yeah, you have to advise somebody of the rights that they give up before pleading guilty and those rights are very clear. In fact, we now have a form. It's like a 9-page form. Everything you're giving up. It's pretty detailed.
Because you don't want these kinds of mistakes.
Right. So that was level 1. Level 2 is flipped over because I think you mentioned that before too.
This was really interesting during the 2015 trial. Lovell's whole thing in trying to avoid the death penalty is to make the argument to the jury that during his time in prison that he's been reformed, and so they bring in a number of members of the clergy who have spoken to him at the prison over the years, and some of the discussion in front of the jury in this 2015 trial revolved around Lovell being excommunicated from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, whether he had ever tried to get back in. And on appeal, his lawyer argued that improperly basically gave the jury the option to maybe consider that, this is a matter for a higher power,
right?
Not a matter of law. And the state Supreme Court came back and said, yeah, that's improper. That should have been objected to by his defense counsel at trial. And because of that mistake, we got to do it over again.
And so what came of the hearing yesterday? So his court-appointed attorney A says, I'm not having communication with him anymore. She's already done what you would say is probably a pretty good job if she got the second death penalty thrown out. But he's not talking to her, so she says, I got to bail. He goes to court. They appoint him a new attorney, I assume. But they say also, hey, you've got a trial coming up. In order for us to give you the attorney more time, you're going to have to waive your right to a speedy trial.
We've got to delay it. Yep. And so he was supposed to have a new sentencing hearing in March. That's now no sooner than September, so a year from now. And I will tell you, having followed this case for quite some time, Greg,
maybe 2 years from now,
it's probably going to be longer, right? Because any little thing that comes up, and the judge in this case, Judge Michael DeReed up in Davis and Weber County, he's been overruled by the Utah Supreme Court. In this case. So he obviously is very invested in making sure that does not happen again, that everything is done strictly to the letter. And, I think to bring it kind of back full circle, as we look at the Charlie Kirk shooting and, the upcoming, we can presume, case against Tyler Robinson, the suspected shooter there are a lot of people who hear death penalty case. We heard Governor Spencer Cox from the outset, before we even really knew a lot about this, say, Utah has the death penalty.
Utah has the death penalty, yep.
But the truth of the matter is that the death penalty in Utah is not a quick process. And so if you are, somebody who's expecting to see Charlie Kirk's suspected shooter, sentenced to death and basically sent to the execution chamber anytime in the near future, that is not likely to happen.
Yeah, we've also got a pending death penalty case in Box Elder County. The man who was accused of killing the 2 police officers from Tremont and Garland area, that's a double death penalty case. We've got the Michael Jane case down in Utah County, allegedly killed the Santaquin police officer, and there are others that we're involved in that I'm tangentially involved in. But we've got a number of death penalty cases, and right now, that's the law of the land, Dave. Utah still has a death penalty. The federal government has a death penalty, and unless something changes, that's going to continue. Our legislature doesn't seem to have an appetite to get rid of it. And if you look at these cases we're talking about right now, I think most people would say if you're going to have a death penalty, these are the kind of cases that qualify. Well, enough on that. When we come back, thank you, Dave. That was fascinating. Tell us again the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. The Cold Podcast. Just search for Cold Season 2 Justice for Joyce.
Justice for Joyce. I'll be listening to that myself. A local lawmaker says providing cell phones to low-level offenders instead of jail time could save space in jails and could save taxpayers money. We'll learn more from Representative Grant Miller, who is a friend of mine and public defender, about this proposal when we come back.
Emergency medical unit, respond to 102 Maple Avenue, possible stroke victim.
When stroke occurs, you have 60 minutes to win or lose the race of your life. There are new treatments, but you must get to a hospital fast. If you suddenly feel weakness on one side, have trouble speaking, walking, or seeing, it could be a stroke. Call 911. Get to a hospital. Because how you spend the next 60 minutes could determine how you spend the rest of your life. Stroke. Know the signs. Act in time. A message from the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. Police in Brigham City are asking for help after a woman was hit and left in the road last night at 850 South and 850 East. Police Chief Chad Reyes says she was taken to the hospital where she later died.
If you're a witness, we've got some very distraught family members, as you can imagine, and we're trying our best to get justice for them and bring this case to conclusion and hold the person responsible accountable.
Family and neighbors say this woman usually walked around the block that time of day to get some exercise. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth today spoke to senior military leaders at Quantico in Virginia, where he outlined his vision for the military, including 10 new directives.
Today, at my direction, we are also adding a combat field test for combat arms units that must be executable in any environment at any time and with combat equipment.
Hegseth says threats around the world are growing and the U.S. has to be prepared. Your money at this moment, the Dow down slightly. It's gained back a little bit of what it's lost earlier this morning to 46,283. Coming up, we still got scattered showers throughout the day. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370. 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. Stroke risk may increase. Eliquis can cause serious and potentially fatal bleeding. Don't take if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or bleed longer. A spinal injection increases blood clot risk, which may cause paralysis. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or bruising, or back pain, tingling, numbness, muscle weakness, or incontinence. Aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Cooler weather. What a relief. Unless you have old drafty windows. Soon the heat will escape through the cracks and your energy bill's going to go through the roof. So now's the time to call Advanced Window Products and get brand new state-of-the-art custom windows and frames at factory direct pricing. The factory is right here in Salt Lake City, where they've been building precision windows since 1986, and you're going to save a lot of money since there's no middleman markup. You save 30, even 40% on your new windows. Even better, call now and they'll give you an extra $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Double pane argon-filled windows with a low-energy triple coating, any style, any color, and Advanced Windows gives you a lifetime warranty. If you have an issue, they're not 10 states away. They're right here in town, and they offer 0% 60-month financing. So make the call now. Get $2,500 off. 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Here's Cormac Bone.
Delays at US 189 start to see the light at the end of the tunnel after being shut down right by Deer Creek Reservoir earlier today. And they're all cleared out, and so good for them. Crash on southbound Bangerter Highway as a result of wet road conditions. They are pulled into the right shoulder, causing no delays. And a crash on southbound I-15 in American Fork right before the 500 East exit on the right shoulder, causing no delays, but drive carefully if you're in the area. No one harvests fall better than Cedar City for the best recreating events, farmers markets, hay mazes, pumpkin patches, eateries, all in living color. Fall in love where everyone wants to be. That's Cedar City. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
Well, traffic and weather don't always affect each other, but they are today. Rain throughout the day and a high of 70 degrees. Dry and highs around 80 on Wednesday and Thursday. Then the clouds come back in on Friday with a chance of rain over the weekend. Right now, it is light rain and cloudy 57 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm alongside Dave Colley this morning. And Dave, one of the things I do in my job that you don't is I make a lot of visits to jails. And I think that in my career, I visited every single jail and prison in Utah. We have 2 prisons. Now a third.
As a lawyer, not
right.
An
Yes,
inmate.
right.
Let's just be clear.
I haven't ever spent the night.
Yes.
And I was in a jail and visiting a jail in Nevada the other day. I've been to other states. They're crowded, and they're always crowded. And it seems like every time you build a jail, we've even got 2 in Salt Lake now at 35th South and one at Oxbow. They're calling it Oxbow. They fill up. So I was interested in this story, and we're going to interview one of our representatives about sort of a way to manage inmates who are, I guess, low-level offenders, giving them some access to their attorneys and keep them knowledgeable about what's happening with their proceedings, but not necessarily having to have them sit in jail, if that makes sense. So let me just. I'm not making sense, but
How does this work? Lay it out for me, Greg.
Well, let's get it straight from the source here. We've got Representative Grant Miller with us. Grant, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's wonderful to be back.
How badly did I bungle it so far?
Oh, no, you got the idea straight across. There's some low-hanging fruit that we're not taking advantage of when it comes to jail overcrowding. If you look at the jail dashboard, there's a lot of people in for serious crimes, and that's what we want. 20% of the jail population's in for first-degree felonies, another 18% for second-degree felonies. But there's this portion of the jail population that I think we could handle differently. If you look at the jail dashboard for Salt Lake County Metro Jail right now, about 37% of the jail population is in for something called warrant service. And Greg, I'm a public defender. You used to be a public defender. You used to be a prosecutor. You're probably familiar with why warrants go out. Most common form of warrant is a failure to appear warrant. You're supposed to come to court. Doesn't matter if it's a criminal charge or a ticket. If you don't go to court, a judge will issue a warrant for your arrest. The other way to get a warrant is a probation violation. And through my experience, the most common form of probation violation is a technical violation where you didn't show up for your probation appointment. What we see is a pattern. People aren't showing up when they're supposed to. And through my job, when I've met up with people and I've given them heads up about their probation dates, or I've given them heads up about court, they're there because they want to take care of it. They don't want warrants. And when people miss court and I catch up with them at the jail, I say, why don't you come to court? Why did you check in with probation? They say, oh, I didn't know. And that's actually kind of fair. Each municipality in the state of Utah, each county's got its own court. And so if you're in Salt Lake trying to figure out where you need to go to court, when to go to court, and you don't have a phone, it's difficult to know when and where you got to be, and a warrant can become more and more inevitable. My hope here, and this is my plan, if we could try to get phones to people who don't have phones. A lot of these people are indigent or homeless, in poverty. They don't have phones. If we could just get phones to people so that way they have contact with their public defender, their caseworker, their probation officer, we could clear people out. And kind of take advantage of this low-hanging fruit and take care of some of this overcrowding at the jail.
So I think that raises a great question. And I appreciate what you're saying, Grant, because you'll have a person who's in jail. The judge will say, your next court date is October 2nd in, Sandy, West Jordan, wherever. And then they get out and they don't know. I mean, there's 2 courthouses in West Jordan. You know what I mean? There's several
Right.
in Sandy, Draper, wherever. You might go to the wrong court. You might not know exactly who the judge is. You might have heard October 12th instead of October 13th or whatever. I mean, so is that what we're talking about? Is people who, not necessarily, I mean, ultimately it's your responsibility to make it to court, period.
Correct.
But a lot of times it's a matter of not necessarily blowing the court off or sort of being spiteful, but just, hey, I made a mistake, or I just had the wrong date down, and then you end up hooking them up, taking law enforcement time, jail administration time, and you're putting people back in jail. Is that kind of what you're trying to avoid here?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. There's this taxpayer accountability element that we need to pay more attention to. Putting people in jail is expensive. About $55,000 a year to incarcerate someone for a year in the state of Utah works out to about $5,000 a month. And failure to appear warrants often take about a month to clear up. So $5,000 is the number I'm trying to mitigate as far as taxpayer accountability is concerned. When I'm talking about phones, I want to be perfectly clear to everyone listening to the show right now. I don't want to get everyone a brand new iPhone 17. That's not it. We can get low-grade functional phones for about $20 a pop, loaded up for a month's worth of minutes for about another $20. And then that's enough time to try to get someone into a program, to get someone into a job, stabilize them, and from there on out they could take care of their own phone bill. But what I need is in between a release from jail and when they check in to probation is that consistency, that stability. Greg, you brought up something really important. When you're in court and the judge gives you a new date, they just kind of declare the date and your lawyer writes it down on a Post-it note and then they give it to you. If you're savvy, you could find it on the court's website again, but you need a phone. And I call all my clients to remind them about court, but in order for them to know about it, they need a phone. We have something called pretrial services. They also reach out, but in order for that to work, it needs a phone. And Greg, one quick thing, a huge benefit about phones here, because I didn't immediately think that phones was a solution to overcrowding. What I was originally trying to do was try to get temporary IDs to people in homelessness. But when I talked to the Department of Workforce Services, when I talked to the Department of Public Safety, they said, we already have temporary ID programs. The trick is you could get a temporary ID on your phone, and it's easier to re-download if it's on your phone. And so we troubleshoot multiple problems if we just get phones in the hands of people who don't have phones. We get them to resources, stabilization, and clear some jail overcrowding.
Grant, I know we've got about a minute left here, and I just want to get your kind of view going forward. You clearly have a plan. You have an idea. You've identified a problem and what you think is a solution. But that's a long way from having this as a bill or a law. And I'm sure members of the public who, haven't spent time in jail might have thoughts about this as well. Where do you see this going?
Well, I want to start small, pilot program. This is very theoretical, but it's not a new idea. The FCC has a plan where you get free phones, but they're not always readily accessible. You need an address, you need Medicaid, and what I want is a backup. And I don't want people released to the public. I want stability so that way people have a chance at success when they're released from jail, so that way they don't come back.
I have to admit, Grant, when I read the article, I thought, Grant Miller's out there again, but I like it. I like it. And I hope that you pursue this. And I think the legislature and the taxpayers have every reason to put some support behind it. I like the idea of a pilot program as well. Thanks for joining us this morning, Grant.
Thanks, Grant.
Thank you so much, Greg.
When we come back, as the federal government teeters on the edge of a shutdown, what are we, 10, 11 hours away? The Utah Office of Tourism says it's committed to keeping Utah's national parks open even with a shutdown. But how exactly will the state pull that off without federal support? The Office of Tourism joins us live to explain their plan next.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Do you spend half your day walking or standing while working? If you have foot, knee, or low back pain, the Good Feet store wants to help you like we helped Tony.
Pain that I experience the most is foot pain from being on my feet all day. You're having to kind of talk to yourself through the whole shift, like, I got this, I can do this. Before, I felt defeated, and now it's like, all right, let's go. I'm ready. A whole new life, like sunshine coming on.
And here's Dennis.
Working at an amusement park, it's always on your feet. I just couldn't take it, but I didn't have a choice. I just couldn't believe that putting these arch supports in made that much of a difference that quickly. Good Feet just took that pain away, and I could do my job, and I could take care of my family. I know what my tomorrow's gonna be. It's gonna be positive, and it's gonna be pain-free.
You deserve a better life too. Stop in the Good Feet store today. Walk-ins are always welcome. Or find the location nearest you and schedule an appointment at goodfeet.com.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/deal for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/deal. See representative for warranty details.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, Visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful when Mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. I wanted a better relationship with Dad, so I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I'm sure glad I did. Is someone's drinking troubling you? You might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
And expanded Inside Sources.
The Utah Office of Tourism has said it is committed to keeping Utah's national parks, monuments, and other outdoor recreation sites open in the event the federal government shuts down this week. I'm joined this morning by Dave Colley, KSL investigative journalist and KSL podcast host. Do you think they can do it?
Well, I mean, we have some past experience to show. The last time we had one of these shutdowns, Greg, I actually took it as an opportunity because I like going to the national parks, but I thought, hey, nobody else will be there. So I ran down to Bryce Canyon in the middle of the shutdown. The gates were open, the staff were not there, and what I found were the bathrooms were locked, the trash cans were overflowing, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, we probably ought to think about what impact we're having if these places aren't staffed.
Yeah, and there were some complaints about that we heard. Well, I don't know to what extent Utah can help, but we do have Managing Director of the Utah Office of Tourism and Film, Natalie Randall, joining us. Natalie, thanks for being with us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good morning.
And can you tell our listeners what effect a government shutdown would have on our national parks?
Yeah, of course. So our national parks specifically are our treasures for our state. Not only do visitors that contribute $3.1 billion to Utah's economy have an impact on it, but also our residents. The reason why it's a priority for us to continue to support our national parks in the state of Utah is because this is a crown jewel for our visitors and for our residents as well.
Natalie, I'm thinking about, where we are in the season here. We're not into ski time yet, and summer vacation season is over. I'm imagining that it's maybe, if there is such a thing as a lull for tourism at some of our parks, maybe we're in that kind of in-between. But still, like these gateway communities outside our national parks, they really depend on visitor dollars to stay alive. And I imagine something like this, even just the threat of it, has to have an impact.
Yeah, it's a significant impact. You mentioned it. It's critical to these gateway communities. A lot of the businesses, think restaurants, guides and outfitters, lodging properties, are dependent on our national parks to remain open and accessible, and they're dependent on these visitors. We have been working closely with communities across the state. You mentioned key summer times, but a lot of these areas now are experiencing visitation during the fall times. As you can imagine, it's cooler temperatures, a great time to come down, especially to southern Utah, and experience many of our national parks. And so visitors are still coming during the fall time periods. And I'm down here in Bryce right now, actually, for our annual Utah Tourism Conference, and ran into visitors from around the world, spoke with a German visitor and spoke with a French visitor. And they are here and planning for the trip of a lifetime that they have saved years to come out and do.
Yeah, I spent the last weekend at Capitol Reef, and it was actually, I mean, Dave indicated it's not necessarily peak season. It was full. I mean, everything was busy, and I don't know why, maybe just fall colors or whatnot. But Natalie, can you tell our listeners logistically and maybe financially, can the state help out here? Is there an avenue or a way that the state can help our visitors so that they can still enjoy our national parks and monuments? if there's a
of
government
course.
shutdown?
Should there be a government shutdown? So, over the course of the past week and even earlier, our priority from the state has been to do outreach to the Department of Interior, to our federal delegation back in D.C., to Office of Management and Budget in D.C., to the administration, really leaning in to say, hey, if a shutdown should occur, it's a key priority for our gateway communities that you keep these parks open, accessible, and have a funding mechanism for them to be operational as well. So that's our first and foremost priority. Of course, there's precedent that's been set, and you've mentioned this historically, that if the federal government doesn't come through, the state is willing to come in and find a way to strategically support to offset these needs of the parks themselves.
I've been very interested in reading about this, Natalie, over the last number of days, because I saw an article where some former National Park Service employees were advocating for shutting the parks down, saying, if they're not staffed, the risk of damage is there. And I'm wondering, if, from your perspective, we probably don't want to discourage visitors for all the reasons that you laid out, but there is a personal responsibility angle here about, if hypothetically we go into a shutdown and the state steps in to try to cover that gap, there probably still is, a lot of degradation of services in the meantime. We just can't fully staff the way on short notice that maybe the park would. So as a visitor, if I was, say, going to Bryce, and by the way, I'm jealous that you bring that up, that you're down there, but if I'm going to do that during a shutdown, what do I need to be thinking about as a visitor so that I'm minimizing my impact?
From our office at the Office of Tourism, our key pieces that we constantly look to is supporting a visitor in planning and preparing for their best trip. Maybe I'll start off in my response is saying, if a visitor has any questions, even a resident, if they have any questions about, hey, I want to pop down and visit Bryce or Capitol Reef during this time, visitutah.com is a great resource. We'll keep that up to date with the most relevant information, and so they can be fully aware of what to expect. And that includes preparing for their best trip too, thinking about what they need to be prepared for as they go down to those areas, and thinking about potentially other itineraries that they can build out with state parks or with our other community amenities that exist. We lean into supporting the visitor experience, preserving the natural environment, and of course supporting our local communities. I might also note too, we are in communication and have been working closely with the local communities, the superintendents at all 5 of our national parks, as well as the nonprofit groups, and really trying to find a meaningful solution to move forward to ensure that not only can visitors have a great experience, but also that our parks are supported through this effort as well. And it really does take this unified, coordinated effort in the state and with our federal government to ensure success during a shutdown like this.
So we're looking at the TV screens right now, and we're speaking with the Managing Director of Utah Office of Tourism and Film, Natalie Randall. We have 11 hours and 5 minutes, 11 hours and 4 minutes. I mean, yes. And you're talking about our visitors making preparations. What can the state do, specifically your office? What kind of preparations, I know it's short notice, can you do so that our visitors can have some comfort that they can visit Bryce this weekend?
The information that we've been leaning into and already supporting our visitors on at visitutah.com is our first and foremost step that we took to ensure our visitors to know they are planning a trip of a lifetime. So regardless of what happens, because these are slightly unprecedented times, even though we've gone through a shutdown before, there's new leadership in place. And so we need to prepare them in understanding where are the areas that they can go. So should they, for whatever reason, not be able to experience our parks, we have our state parks that will remain open. And we do have those other community amenities and assets as well that they can also experience too.
I'm glad you brought up the state parks, because I was going to say Kodachrome is right next door to Bryce if you've never been.
It is. I've been. I love it there. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that whole area, and doing a little research, and I hate to throw names of places out if people, I'm very much a don't geotag it, let people do their own research, but if potentially your dream vacation to Bryce can't happen because of a shutdown, there are other places that you might want to look at.
Is that right, Natalie?
There is. I mean, Utah is truly a gem when it comes to experiencing an adventure. And there are many places, and our communities have really been leaning in their destination development to create experiences for our visitors beyond our national parks. While we know that that is typically what draws someone in, it differentiates our state from our other surrounding Western neighbors. Utah has so much to offer, of course, beyond the parks. We want, first and foremost, to ensure that visitors can come into our parks. But if they're not able to, we are leaning in, encouraging in our visitor messaging to still come to our state because of all of these other beautiful amenities that we have.
Well, I'll just ask you a question. You got about 30 seconds. A shutdown is a problem. At what point does it become a huge problem? A week, a month?
Any of those timeframes, it could become a significant problem for us. But I mean, our goal at the end of the day, keep it as short as we can, and hopefully, if we could, avoid it as a whole. But again, any length of time for a shutdown is a significant concern for our industry as a whole. But again, visit utah.com for any information, visitor-facing information, or even as a resident, if you need some additional information about what to expect and what is happening.
Thanks, Natalie. That was Natalie Randall from Utah Office of Tourism and Film. When we come back, Utah Governor Spencer Cox was on 60 Minutes over the weekend, reiterating his calls to tone down the public rhetoric after the death of Charlie Kirk. We'll get more on his comments and other governors. Stay ahead with us on KSL News Radio.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Becky Bruce. KSL's top story this hour. Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA, is coming back to Utah for the first time since he was murdered. They're holding an event at Utah State University tonight. Former Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz will be one of the panelists filling in for Kirk. Chaffetz says he was honored to be asked to speak.
It's an emotional moment. I hope to do it justice. Charlie Kirk was one of a kind, and there are not many people that have affected a younger generation to the degree that Charlie did.
Chaffetz will speak alongside Utah Senator Mike Lee, Utah Governor Spencer Cox, and Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs. The event starts at 6:30. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump again says there may be consequences if Congress can't agree on a spending plan tonight.
President Trump said Tuesday there could be layoffs in the federal workforce if there's a government shutdown starting Wednesday. Asked how many people could lose their jobs, the president pointed the finger at Democrats for their shutdown demands.
We may do a lot, and that's only because of the Democrats.
The president went on to claim that Democrats are seeking, quote, full health care benefits for migrants. But Democrats are insisting on a reversal of Medicaid cuts passed earlier this year and an extension of Obamacare subsidies that are set to expire this year. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 114 points, or about 0.25%. S&P 500 and NASDAQ also in negative territory at this hour. Coming up, keep that umbrella handy, maybe a light jacket too. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
September means it's time for Any Hour Services free furnace sale. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and as summer comes to a close and falls right around the corner, the weather gets, well, perfect. And when the weather's perfect, people need a little extra incentive to replace their heating and cooling system. That's where Any Hour Services free furnace sale comes in. For the month of September, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. And there's no catch. There's no raising the price on the air conditioner first. There's no making you buy the most expensive air conditioner to qualify. There's none of that. There's just a desire to keep our technicians working while the weather's mild and a genuine appreciation of you for helping us keep them busy. So if you've been thinking about replacing your old furnace and air conditioner and want to know exactly how much you can save during our free furnace sale, call Any Hour Services today and schedule a free estimate. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
The Management Minute is a service of the MBA program in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University. I'm Professor Scott Hammond. A website copywriter is doing 3 times more work than she was a year ago because AI programming is helping her with composition, organization, and editing. A data scientist who used to analyze data now checks the AI-generated analysis and helps managers make better decisions. A college professor, okay, it's me, tells AI to create PowerPoint slides for a lecture, and they do it in 45 seconds, and they do a better job than it took him 2 hours to do. AI is changing everything we do in the workplace, and it certainly has disrupted the workplace. There are fewer entry-level jobs, more impersonal communications. AI is making the workplace a more productive and less personal place. Learn more about how to lead a productive workplace without losing the personal connections. Go to UtahStateMBA.com. That's UtahStateMBA.com. I'm Scott Hammond. Hope to see you in one of our classes.
Hey guys, it's Woodrow from Mint Medical Clinic. Are you struggling with ED? Well, you are not alone. And now there's a real solution that treats the root cause, not just the symptoms. Introducing our trifecta approach, a breakthrough combination of acoustic wave therapy, hormone replacement, and cryotherapy, all designed to restore blood flow, boost performance, and rebalance your hormones. Whether it's ED or hormonal imbalance, if you're ready to reignite your love life, this treatment helps bring back your energy, your drive, and your confidence. And right now, when you call, you'll receive a free consultation, a blood flow ultrasound, and an intimacy gift. That's a $650 value, absolutely free. And here's the bonus. The next 20 callers will also receive a 5-night stay at a luxury resort in Hawaii just for taking the first step. But you must call now. With 2 convenient locations in Layton and Sandy, help is closer than you think. Call 801-804-8000 now. That's 801-804-8000. Mint Medical Clinic. We'll get you back to mint condition.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Let's check in with Cormac Bone.
Crash on northbound I-15 before the 500 East exit in American Fork. They are out of traffic and on the left shoulder. There's also a crash on eastbound I-80 at the transition ramp to US 40 in Summit County. The right shoulder is blocked, and at least 4 emergency vehicles are on scene. And heavier rain in the Salt Lake area has the road spray splashing up over the median. Slow down as you come in from Bountiful or Levi. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
Windy today with those midday showers and thunderstorms likely to continue. The high 70. We may have actually already hit that. Tomorrow the sun comes back out and we're going to top out near 80 degrees. Right now it's a cool, windy 57 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Becky Bruce from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Good morning. Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm joined by Dave Colley, KSL investigative journalist and KSL podcast host. And Dave, it was no surprise that CBS 60 Minutes wanted to interview Utah Governor Spencer Cox, especially after his remarks following the death of Charlie Kirk. If you recall, that Friday, I think it was, a couple days after that, he gave really a very powerful speech about just moving forward and dialing back the rhetoric. And I mean, he literally broke down during the speech, but it was so compelling that I think 60 Minutes decided, let's bring him in and let's talk about this and get a little bit of a different perspective.
I thought it was really interesting that they did that because just like you said, I watched, as a lot of us did, these press conferences after the shooting in real time and kind of seeing, the FBI people, Director Kash Patel and Spencer Cox. And to my eyes, our governor, Spencer Cox, he was the one to listen to in those interactions. I felt like he was speaking, in many ways, probably more from the heart, it felt to me, than some of those other officials who were giving you kind of what you would expect in a press conference.
Right. He spoke about the death of Charlie Kirk and seeing it unfold on social media.
The video was already out. There was no fog of war. There was no doubt what had happened. That terrible, awful video that I wish I had not seen. I hate, again, social media, that almost every person in this country, including our young people, have seen that video on a loop over and over and over again. And I can't unsee it. I can't stop seeing it. Every time I close my eyes, that's what I see.
Dave, one thing about Spencer Cox is and I admire the man the more I hear it and see him, and he's been our governor for some time. But this fell on the heels of another significant event here in Utah, and that was the death of the two Tremonton police officers in Box Elder County. And the reason why that was so powerful to me is that on this very show, we played parts of their funeral services. Mm-hmm. And if you recall, Governor Cox was a speaker at both of those, and his remarks were just so spot on. And I thought, boy, he can't possibly do any better. But then he rose up and did well again. And I think, CBS 60 Minutes is like, hey, let's get this guy on.
Yeah, you have to imagine the producers for 60 Minutes were looking at that. And, in many ways, Governor Cox stands out among not only, all governors, but even Republican governors. And I think that's, for people who didn't see this segment on 60 Minutes, one of the things they really kind of focused in on was how Governor Cox has very publicly, campaigned. Obviously, we here in Utah, we've heard him talk about disagree better. We've seen the political ads that he's done with, opponents where they're standing together and saying, let's try to, mend the differences. But at the same time, I think, some of the more jaded among us might look at that and go, that's... and I think what I took away from this is he kind of recognizes some of that as well.
Right, and he isn't trying to get everybody just to join hands and sing Kumbaya.
I get accused on the right all the time of, I just want people to have a kumbaya moment. I want people to hold hands and just hug it out. And we're done with that. We're done holding hands and hugging it out. I'm not asking anybody to hold hands and hug it out. I'm not asking for that. I'm trying to get people to stop shooting each other. That's it. And I think what I'm doing and what I'm saying is the best way to do that. Some people will disagree with that, and that's okay. We should have these debates as a society. I'm not always right. I've made mistakes. Other politicians, I think, are making mistakes right now in trying to elevate the temperature, but I'm going to just keep having these conversations.
Greg, I want to be a little frank and maybe even kind of personal here. Part of what Governor Cox was talking about in this 60 Minutes interview, and you just heard in that soundbite about, people who are trying to raise the temperature rather than lower it. I feel like I see that. He's talking about social media with kids and stuff. Like, I spend more time than I should on social media. I think a lot of us identify with that. The whole term doom scroll is a thing, right? At the end of the day, I sit down, I may look at Instagram or Reddit or whatever, and it's very easy to get trapped in this mindset of the world's a terrible place, everybody's horrible, everybody in position of authority is, acting on their worst impulse. And what I feel like, Governor Cox is talking about here, this idea that we can get so focused in on that kind of a narrative that it really makes us see the world in a different and perhaps kind of dangerous way.
Yeah, and I can't agree with you more. Governor Cox told 60 Minutes correspondent Scott Pelley that reshaping this country comes from the youth.
Students gathered where Charlie Kirk was killed. Cox told the crowd they can't count on politicians. Change, he said, must come from all of you.
Thank you. Thanks for leading us out. Thank you. I'm desperately looking for more architects and fewer arsonists. Again, it's so easy to burn down and tear down, and we've got too much of that today. I'm hoping that a positive vision for our country, a positive vision for our party, treating everyone with dignity and respect, that's how we get our country back.
Interesting. More architects and less arsonists.
I was a radio reporter and producer for a long time. That hit my ear as, ooh, that's the soundbite. And
yeah,
you
right.
understand why 60 Minutes used it. I don't know. I've not spoken to Governor Cox about this. I don't know if he workshopped that phrase or not, or if that was off the cuff. I'm going to guess it's something he's thought about before. But there's probably some truth to that too, right? Who is pushing to make an incendiary situation worse? Who's trying to build up?
Yeah, and when you hear somebody like Governor Cox, and by the way, this interview I watched it. He was on with two other governors, both of whom were, I think one was from New Mexico and one was from Colorado. They're both Democrats.
Right.
And they were lockstep. They were talking as though they were. And in fact, he indicated one of the first calls he got after the Charlie Kirk shooting was from the Democratic New Mexico governor, who called him to console him and say, hey, what can we do? How can I help? And the CBS people actually, I don't know, it was tongue-in-cheek, said, maybe you ought to consider running for president. He's like, no, thanks.
Some people watching this interview might be thinking he should run for president, but the fact is you would never survive Republican primaries.
Well, the thought of running for president makes me nauseous. I have no interest in that. I'm glad that there are good people who are willing to do that, but that is not something I've ever been interested in. And you're also correct. The way we select our candidates makes it almost impossible for someone like me to have an opportunity.
Which is a very interesting thing for Governor Cox to say, given that, during his last gubernatorial campaign, it was a pretty, I would call it a knuckles out kind of fight against his Republican challenger.
Right. And I think that, I don't recall exactly, but I think that he was actually beat at the convention. I think that Lyman came out ahead at the convention, and that's what he's talking about here. I couldn't even get through my own primary.
Right.
The thing is, you get a Cox or you get a Mitt Romney, and in some respects, I think John Curtis is trying to bridge it a little bit, where you get people who are not so hard-lined that they. But the problem is you got to be hard-lined to get through your own convention.
Right.
Then when you get to the general election, I mean, Cox wins by a landslide because, let's face it, independents and Democrats love him. But, you like you say, you got to get through your own party. When we come back after the break, Secretary of War, I guess we're calling him Pete Hegseth, addressed senior military leaders at Quantico in Virginia today. He outlined his vision for a new direction for the department with 10 new directives. We'll learn more from News Nation next.
Many people worry they're not making the right investment choices inside their 401ks. Did you know that you might have a little-known opportunity to add some additional investment choices to your 401k and get the help and recommendations you've been looking for? This exciting feature is called a self-directed brokerage window. And the best part? The money still stays within your 401k. Learn how the trusted advisors at Capital Wealth may be able to expand your investment portfolio. To learn more, call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Improving your 401k might mean the difference of retiring a few years earlier. Let's find out. Schedule your no-cost 15-minute consultation with the Capital Wealth team today. Call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
Do you know the secret to losing up to 1 pound of fat every day? At Salt Lake City Fat Loss, we know the secret. Our doctor-developed, easy-to-follow weight loss program helps you lose weight fast, naturally, and safely with no drugs or injections. No prepackaged meals, bars, shakes, or exercising required. Our program helps reset your metabolism so you can lose weight quickly and keep the weight off for good with an easy-to-follow maintenance plan that includes ongoing personal support. And our program costs half as much and works up to twice as fast than most other programs. Go to slcfatloss.com to schedule your free consultation now.
I'm Jeff Kaplan, and I don't gasp for air when I walk up the stairs anymore. I lost 30 pounds in 7 weeks, and I get ongoing personal support from SLC Fat Loss to keep the weight off. It's a great plan.
Many clients lose 20 to 30 pounds in about a month or two. That's up to a pound per day. Schedule your free consultation now at slcfatloss.com. That's slcfatloss.com. Results may vary.
So my mother is thinking of switching from Verizon to Pure Talk, but she's worried the deal sounds too good to be true. Michael, she said, how can those Pure Talk people offer me the same basic service as Verizon for so much less money? I said, Ma, go ask Google how much Verizon spends on advertising and promotions. A few seconds later, my mother said, oh my goodness, $12 billion a year? That must be a typo. I'll tell you what I told my mom. It's not a typo. Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotions, and their customers are paying for it. Well, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. Trust me, I would know. That's why they can offer you and my mother unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a crazy fast 5G network for just $25 a month. And if you're a business owner, you could really save a fortune. Dial pound 250, say the words Mike Rowe, and you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 Mike Rowe. Pure Talk. Everything you need and nothing you don't.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for kids, teens, or young adults. It's just not.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals and volatile organic compounds into your body.
And nicotine, the same highly addictive substance found in regular cigarettes.
Nicotine can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s,
affecting learning, memory, attention, and impulse control, and priming the brain for other addictions.
Vaping products also come in kid-friendly flavors that can make them appealing to youth.
And many kids also use other drugs, like marijuana, in vaping devices.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media,
many kids think vaping is harmless, but it's not.
So talk to your kids about the risks of vaping, because when you talk, they hear you.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. It drove me crazy. It got so bad, I couldn't do my homework. I couldn't concentrate. I absolutely refused to let any of my friends come to our house for any reason. I would have been humiliated if anyone found out how much my dad drank and how loud my mom screamed at him. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful. The only thing that happened is my mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. Her relationship with my dad really changed. I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I wanted to see if I could have a better relationship with my dad. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section and after Dad's back injury. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Trouble with opioids can start at home with unused medicines such as pills, patches, and syrups. You can remove the risk and protect your family. Find out how at www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
An expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Pete Hegseth today addressed senior military leaders at Quantico in Virginia. He outlined his vision for a new direction for the department, highlighting 10 new directives, including new standards for combat arms positions, regular PT tests, and changes to their grooming standards. Here's what he said during his remarks. There is some graphic language here.
Would you want him serving with fat or unfit or undertrained troops? Or alongside people who can't meet basic standards? Or in a unit where standards were lowered so certain types of troops could make it in? In a unit where leaders were promoted for reasons other than merit, performance, and warfighting? The answer is not just no, it's hell no.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to make a point with his troops and trying to, and I've seen this. I'll digress a little bit with law enforcement, where you have these standards you have to meet, but then you get to the point where you're a captain or lieutenant or chief. Do you really need the standards? Well, according to some departments, you sort of do. But on the other hand, if you, I don't know, I can understand you military, you were in the uniform, police, military, whatever. You need to look the part, but having those kind of standards for people that have been around for a while and that have earned their stripes maybe doesn't make the most sense in the world. But President Trump actually addressed the group as well.
We're bringing back a focus on fitness, ability, character, and strength, and that's because the purposes of American military is not to protect anyone's feelings, it's to protect our republic.
We are joined this morning by News Nation's White House correspondent Kelly Meyer. Kelly, thank you for joining us this morning. And what can you tell our listeners about these new directives?
Yeah, hi.
Hi. I think that this is something that Secretary Hegseth has been weighing for a while now. He's been talking a lot about this, quote, warrior ethos. And I think this is something that he laid out today now with this 10-point plan that they're calling it. It's going to be what we got and obtained by News Nation, this 20-page memo, 10 different points, really laying out now specifically what this means for the branches. So whether it comes to no beards for service members, whether it comes to raising the standards, and this is something he's talked about, to this, quote, male standard. So he says if the women are able to reach that, excellent. If they're not, it is what it is how he put it today. So really laying this out in detail. This is something that the president says he supports. And his speech, the president's speech, was a bit more winding on various issues, not just the military, but certainly Secretary Hegseth, now what they're calling the Secretary of War, as the president pushed to rename the Defense Department the War Department. They're focusing on this, quote, warrior mentality and trying to really just increase the physical fitness of the branches, as well as the overall, the different requirements for different aspects as well.
So, Kelly, over the weekend, we were watching as the story kind of developed about this call for the brass to, come and gather for this meeting, and there was not a lot of indication what it was all going to be about and speculation. Does any of this to you come as a surprise, or is this kind of what we were expecting to see happen here?
I think some of it was not a surprise, and then at the same time, some of it was. I think some of the comments that he had to make about this, and certainly laying this out more explicitly. But at the same time, this has to go through a lot of bureaucracy within the Pentagon. So he could lay this all out, but then we don't know if it's going to be something that will really happen. And that's what we're hearing more from Democrats, for example, that my colleagues have been speaking with on Capitol Hill, is that this may just be, as they're calling it, just for show, just for TV. This is something that won't really be able to go into effect. Some of these are just ideas, but there are some things that the administration has been talking about for a while and could potentially put into play.
Kelly, could you get any reading from the audience themselves as to how this was being received? Because there were a lot of stars and bars there. There were a lot of senior military officials and people who aren't used to being given orders. How did you think that they were perceiving this?
I think in terms of those in the audience that were listening in and kind of taking this all in, I think the president even commented as he walked out how silent it was, and that was the most silent room he's walked into. He's not used to that when he goes and speaks in front of people. But this was obviously a very different audience, and it seemed as though one that he wasn't exactly comfortable speaking in front of, how he kind of went on with his speech for quite a while, both on script but then not on teleprompter, and wavering off. But it seemed as though what we were seeing from those, or hearing from those reporters that were in the audience, that some were taking notes, some were kind of gazing off and kind of rolling their heads. But overall, even the president said before he left for this event that if he doesn't like what certain top generals have to say, top military leaders, he'll say you're fired, and gave examples of what he's done in the past to previous military leaders.
I mean, I can imagine that chain of command is a thing. This is the commander-in-chief and the head of the department, and they're laying out a vision, and you were called in. So maybe an argument that sitting quietly and respectfully is appropriate. It's not a rally. It's not a political rally, right?
Exactly. Like, that is the demeanor. That's how they are trained. That is what the audience is going to be. And I don't know if the president was just poking fun at that when he came out, that this is just a quiet audience. But obviously they're going to be respectful and obtain their training when they are in that environment. And it was a very quick gathering, a very quick get-together of these top generals and admirals. There was even the question to the president of the cost factor of getting everybody here at last minute. This was a last-minute kind of speech, and that's why there were some Democrats criticizing it as more of a made-for-TV moment rather than something substantial, whereas those leaders from Hegseth to Trump argue that this is something that is going to take effect.
What do you suppose Trump's overall objective was in speaking? What was his message? We understand Hegseth. He laid out this 10-point plan. Was Trump seemingly on board with that, or did he have his own message?
Yeah, Trump, he did offer his support. He did talk about, of course, how he's, used the military in certain cities. He's talked about how he uses them to maintain, as he's calling, law and order in certain cities, sending the National Guard. He said something like, encouraging them to use force if necessary. If they spit, we hit, is how he put it, for example. So he did talk a bit about that aspect of how he's trying to keep communities or make sure that communities are safe with this effort. But that obviously has come under a lot of questions and criticism and controversy of his usage of the military for things like this.
Definitely, the optics of the thing to me are just very interesting, Kelly, because as we've talked about here, you are calling all of these very experienced soldiers, admirals, generals, people to come and listen to this message. And for me, as just I've never served in the military, and I'm thinking to myself, well, is this just one of those that could have been in an email kind of things? Could you send out that 10-point plan and just say this is the direction that we're going with the department? But clearly the goal here was to get face-to-face with these leaders.
Yeah, make it a big moment. They really hyped it up. They really said they're going to do this, last-minute, massive gathering, rare gathering of military leaders from around the world and bring them in. There were comments on X, could this have been an email? But this is something that they did want to make sure they put out there. So that was interesting to see, too.
Kelly, we've got about a minute left, but it seemed like one of the directives was sort of get on board politically. I'm wondering what that might mean.
Yeah, I think there was that push in the sense of to have him come in, and we see that really kind of, the conflict there between both, you have the service members, but then you have the political aspect of it as well. You see that when you were at the Pentagon, the conflict of interest between, you have obviously you're leading for the administration, you have politicians in service, but then you have career service members, you have people that have served in combat that aren't really tied into the politics of it all. So it is interesting to see the political message there when really they're just given the mission and have to serve it out. So you see that kind of play out, especially in a moment like this.
Thanks, Kelly. That was News Nation's White House correspondent Kelly Meyer talking to us about Secretary of Defense, I'll call him, Pete Hegseth.
He wants to be called Secretary of War, Greg.
With his military leaders today. He was rah-rah. He was up there doing it, and trying to get the troops organized. Speaking of the administration, the Trump administration wants the Supreme Court to fast-track its review of Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship. We'll break down what this means now that the issue is back in front of the United States Supreme Court. Stay with us.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Becky Bruce. KSL's top local story this hour. Utah Governor Spencer Cox has ordered U.S. and state flags to be flown at half-staff on all state facilities in honor of President Russell M. Nelson of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The flags will remain lowered until sunset on the day of his funeral next Tuesday. A staggering 96% of drivers admit to taking part in some form of road rage over the past year behind the wheel. KSL News Radio's Randall Jepson reports.
These numbers from the AAA, they're kind of intense, but what do they actually consider road rage? Well, some of the more benign activities, that would be honking in anger, yelling in your car at other drivers, but 67%, they say they've cut off people, which is dangerous. 24% say they've closely tailgated someone, and 11% they've intentionally tried to bump another car to prove their point.
AAA says if anyone is doing some of those aggressive behaviors toward you, you want to give them as much space as possible and don't engage. And if it continues, you should call 911. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The deadline is tonight. If Congress can't reach an agreement by midnight to keep the government funded, the government will shut down. President Trump has said there could be layoffs if that happens. Markets a little bit down today. The Dow is down about 173 points. S&P 500 and NASDAQ also in negative territory. Coming up, it's a wet and blustery day out there. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Higher taxes, soaring inflation, record low interest rates, and the skyrocketing cost of healthcare. The list goes on. Retiring successfully today is a lot more complicated than ever before. Learn how you could tackle the biggest challenges that you'll face in retirement today. Don't miss a special edition of Retirement Solutions Radio. It's this Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, right here on KSL News Radio 1027.
When you choose Performance Automotive in Bountiful, you're choosing selection, convenience, and exceptional service. With 3 locations, Performance Ford Lincoln, Performance Honda, and Performance Toyota, Performance Automotive is here to serve your needs. Performance Automotive in Bountiful, where excellence comes standard. Start your search at performancebountiful.com.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Hello, car donation hotline.
Hi, I'd like to donate a car to the Utah Kidney Foundation. Are you in Utah?
Awesome. Let's get some info and we'll send you a tow truck.
But I want my car donation to benefit my neighbor in Farmington who needs a transplant. Are you in Utah?
That's a gnaw. I'm in SoCal, but you're still donating to charity.
What charity?
Does it matter?
Yes, I want my donation to stay in Utah.
Righteous dude. You need to call tow cars in Utah. Locals only, am I right?
Oh, yeah. I remember tow cars with a K like kidney. It's on a billboard somewhere. TOWKARS.org. That's it. Towcars.org.
If you'd like your vehicle donation to help Utah kidney patients in the Beehive State, please use the web address on their billboard, towcars.org, to donate your old car or truck. That's TOWK like kidney, ARS. Towcars.org.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. It's wet and windy out there, Ricky Meese.
Well, the deluge seems to have eased quite a bit throughout the valley, but not before leaving our roads soaked and soggy. If you're northbound on I-15, it is heavy and slow from just before 33rd South down to the 6th South exit. But we also have problems right now. A stalled vehicle on the exit ramp from westbound on the 21st South Freeway at Redwood Road continues to block a left lane. In Salt Lake County, a crash at the ramp exiting from southbound I-15 at the I-215 junction, the south interchange. Traffic able to get around it just fine, but it's an indication of how much water came through and soaked the road and also caused some issues. An accident reported northbound on the West Belt at 7th North and then in Layton, southbound I-15. We do have a crash by the Parkway. It's blocking a right lane of traffic and causing delays. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Windy and midday showers and thunderstorms are likely to continue. Our high was forecast to be 70 degrees. I think we may have already hit it, actually, with the temperatures dropping over the last hour in the rain. Tomorrow the sun comes back out. We'll top out near 80 degrees. Right now, though, a blustery 55. I'm Becky Bruce from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
And here are Greg Skordas and Dave Colley on KSL News Radio
Not
talking
exactly Holly Richardson.
about where we are. And I appreciate you being here and bailing me out today. Holly's on vacation for a couple of weeks, and this would be a hard thing to do alone.
Oh, yeah.
So you're a hero for doing this, Dave. I want to talk about the 14th Amendment It's something that we often think of as giving us the concept of due process and having the states be part of the legal proceedings and giving them certain rights. But one of the things written in fact, it's the first sentence of the 14th Amendment, I believe, and it was passed at the conclusion of the Civil War, and it was passed to prevent southern states from deporting slaves. Because at the time, we had abolished slavery, and so then southern states were maybe inclined to say, okay, well, you guys shouldn't be here. You're not citizens. We're going to deport you. So they passed the 14th Amendment, which says at the outset, if you're born here, you're a citizen.
Birthright citizenship.
Birthright citizenship.
Yeah.
But it was passed for that purpose. That was the purpose of it. And it's been law for 250 years. I forget what year it was passed, but it was a long time ago. And nobody's really questioned it until now. One of the first things President Trump did when he took office was he signed an executive order banning birthright citizenship. He just said, we're not doing this anymore. And what he's claimed, and there's some legal thought to this, because you go back to the framers of the Constitution and you look at what we call intent. What was their intent? Was their intent to provide, if I was arguing this on the behalf of the administration, that someone who's here illegally, who crosses our border, who happens to have a child while they're here, suddenly is able to call that child a U.S. citizen simply by the fact that they snuck in and had a baby while they're here? Was that the intent of the framers of not the framers, but the people that amended the Constitution at that time, or was it to protect slaves? Well, obviously it was to protect slaves, but we've never challenged it. So he issues this executive order saying, no, this has gone way too far, and that's not what anybody intended when we enacted the 14th Amendment. So he does the executive order, basically I'm doing away with it. And it's an interesting legal juxtaposition that happened next. That is this, that people started filing lawsuits in Delaware and Michigan and Massachusetts and getting judges to say, no, you can't do this. And so the judges are issuing these orders. And if you think about it, and I'm getting way into the weeds here, we have federal courts in all 50 states. And we probably have some states have multiple federal courts. We have one with the District of Utah. So let's say you have 100 federal courts in America. We probably have more than that. That's the potential to get 100 different rulings by judges. So in order to avoid that, a judge would issue a ruling saying the president's executive order is unconstitutional, and so the judge in Texas enters an order that says that. Does that mean in Utah it's unconstitutional? And so it was the idea of the universal order, the blanket order that one federal judge could issue a ruling that applies to the whole country. And so the appeal that the administration took, that the Trump administration took, was not to say, hey, you shouldn't have outlawed this law, this executive order, but you shouldn't have made it nationwide. You can't have a nationwide injunction. And the Supreme Court said, you know what, you're right. Judges shouldn't be doing that. Now, the flip side is, so what do you have, 50 different rulings? You know what I mean? So, but on the other hand, should a judge in Utah be able to bind all of the people in Massachusetts to a certain idea, certain ideology? So the administration, it was an interesting run that they did, end run, because there's no question that this was their intent all along, not to do away with the 14th Amendment, but to do away with universal rulings that apply nationwide. And the Supreme Court seems to be on board with that. Now, what they invited was, they said, well, let's say that people file a class action lawsuit in a certain jurisdiction. We represent all of the people that are in a particular class of people that were born in the United States and that this could affect. That would be allowed. And of course, that's the next thing that happened after the Supreme Court said, no, we're not going to have universal injunctions, that we're not going to have this, we're not going to let these bind the whole country. So that's now what the administration is trying to deal with. They're saying to the Supreme Court, wait a minute, we still need to revisit these how we're going to handle cases when we have issues in 50 different courts, but we're still not ready to address the issue of whether or not we should outlaw birthright citizenship. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So let me drag you back out of the weeds a little bit here, Greg, because you sent me this article, SCOTUS blog article.
Right.
And I remember when that executive order was issued earlier in the year, and just on the face, as you very well laid out there is this, constitutional amendment that explains birthright citizenship. We have this executive order from the president that, basically says it's going to change it, and as you would expect, that prompted legal action.
Right.
And so I guess that's about where I lost track of this. Because we're getting hit by so much news every day, and it was like, yeah, that's a case, and it's in the courts, and it'll bubble up to the top of my news feed when it is relevant. Well, that relevance is now because, as we understand, the administration is asking the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, to weigh in on the question. But as you explained, like how we got here, it has been a very convoluted kind of process. And so what are you thinking with, essentially what we understand now is this is potentially a question before the U.S. Supreme Court as to whether or not this executive order is going to hold any force. With that background, where are we looking?
Well, so I'm going to play just a soundbite here from the legal contributor Jay Sample, who said that even the fact that the Supreme Court is willing to hear this, whatever they decide, is a win for Trump.
He'd certainly prefer to win in this case, and he would consider that, I'm sure, one of his crowning achievements. But a loss here would fire up the base in ways that he sees as favorable.
What he's trying to say there is that maybe the weight of the public opinion is that we have taken this 14th Amendment too far, and that maybe we do need to. So universal injunctions are one thing, but at some point maybe somebody's going to have to address this, and we may have a change in the way we define our Constitution. Was that the original intent of the constitutional amendment to go this far? And I know I've kind of talked myself in a circle a little bit here, but at some point we're going to have to address that. And that's what the dissenters said. Hey, you're missing the, forget universal injunctions. Let's cut to this is so unconstitutional. Why are we even arguing it? Let's just say that it's bad. And the courts have said, no, that's not the question. The question is, what can you do about universal injunctions? Are they legal? The answer is they're not. So I don't know. It's a little bit of a mess.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court's going to weigh that out and tell us kind of where we are in the future. Well, this is the kind of stuff that makes me happy.
Clearly, like, you get very invested in it. I'm just curious, Greg, like the Supreme Court, they don't have to take this, right? They can choose to not even hear the case. That's
another thing. And that's why they said this is a win for Trump just by taking it up. Yeah, that'll be the interesting question. They can decide to grant what's called certiorari. We want to hear this case. Or they may say, it's not ripe yet.
Okay, more to be seen.
Yeah, seriously. So when we come back, I want to talk to you about something that you've done that I really I just want to hit on it again. It's about you went to Triangle and that series, that podcast you created, because I listened to it and I couldn't get away from it, and I want to revisit, if you don't mind, when we come back.
Absolutely. Thanks.
J&J Garden Center is your fall headquarters. Now through November 1st, save 20% on perennials, shrubs, containerized trees, soils, fountains, and more. You'll also find clearance trees up to 50% off. Fall is the perfect time to plant pansies, mums, and fall bulbs. Don't forget pumpkins, gourds, strawbills, and corn stalks. Plus, explore our gift shop for cozy fall decor and seasonal finds. Hurry and visit us in Layton today, and let's get your garden fall ready. J&J Garden Center, where fall begins.
Sign up for KSL Text Alerts. Get breaking news and traffic updates by texting the word news to 57500. Want access to exclusive contests? Text contest to 57500. Jazz fans, text the word jazz for breaking jazz updates. And Cougar fans, text BYU to 57500 for the latest on the Cougars. Message and data rates may apply.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You've still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer lets you easily compare direct rates from different insurance companies, so you can be confident you're getting the right one, even if it's not with Progressive. Way more confident than you were when you tried online gaming. Who knew 12-year-old boys could be so mean? And where did they learn to swear like that? 2 hours of losing to these underage trash talkers, and you're starting to question if maybe you really should stick to pickleball and other boomer stuff. So use Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer and be confident you're getting insurance that's right for you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Aspen Peak Productions is an event company dedicated to transforming visions into one-of-a-kind experiences. Backed by more than 20 years of expertise in audiovisual and food and beverage, this powerhouse husband and wife team helps bring unforgettable events to life. CEO and owner Trevor Sorrells-Jones joins us with more.
Here at Aspen Peak Productions, we believe every event should be a true reflection of the people and purpose behind it. From corporate meetings and social gatherings to weddings, concerts, and conventions, we work closely with our clients to understand their vision and bring it to life. Our expertise include dramatic drape backdrops, custom ceiling installations, and hybrid corporate meetings. We also offer innovative projection mappings that can transform entire buildings and intimate wedding cakes into a fun, immersive experience. We are committed to delivering tailored services and creating experiences that feel polished, memorable, and meaningful. With connections across Utah's event industry, we collaborate with trusted partners ranging from transportation providers, furniture rental companies, to leading event planners, florists, and caterers. We also coordinate unique experiences from tastings, chocolate pairings, and branded decor. Whatever the occasion, Aspen Peak Productions is here to help elevate your event.
Aspen Peak Productions is turning bold ideas into truly unforgettable and inspiring experiences for every event. Learn more by visiting their website, aspenpeakproductions.com. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, what are you waiting for? Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Hi, Grandma. Can Nina come over for dinner?
Sure. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
If anyone ever does, I want you to say, no, I have too much respect for my family and I don't want to get in trouble.
I promise, Grandma.
They really do hear you. For tips on what to say, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel neglected or unloved? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Inside Sources.
Back with us on Inside Sources, Greg Skordas alongside Dave Colley. And it seems like I've been doing this show for a while, Dave, but it hasn't been that long. We started in June.
Yeah.
And I met you in terms of this show about that time. You came on and introduced us to a podcast that you had done, that you were working on. And I'll have to say, I got hooked. I got completely hooked on your You Went to Triangle podcast. I'd never listened to, and I'm embarrassed to say this because there are a lot of good ones out there. My kids will tell me that, the 2 or 3 or 4 part series podcast. You came in and said, you were talking to us about issues 1 and 2 had come out, or the first
couple episodes.
So I thought, well, I need to listen to him because he's coming back next week, and I want to act like I'm smart. Well, then I was like, when's the next one coming out? I gotta listen. I gotta listen to this, and so again, now I'm thinking, could I ever do something like that? Could I ever produce something like that? And I can't even imagine the time you put into that, because you actually tell our listeners the backdrop of the story a little bit, and then I want to have you describe the commitments you had to make personally to make that work.
Yeah, I appreciate you setting that up. And I'll just say at the outset, Greg, I've worked in news and media for a lot of years, and hey, I need to check this person's work before I interview him, that's pretty rare. So thank you. The You in a Triangle podcast, for me, it's a story that bubbled up out of the newsroom, my career covering news, and it was about this man from Australia who came to hike a trail in Utah in 2011, and he was solo hiking, and he didn't make it to the end. There was a big search and rescue effort and no discovery of his remains. And over the course of many years covering the story and the aftermath of it, I got to know this man, Eric Robinson's wife, Marilyn Coolstra, who lives in Australia, and talked to her kind of in a, I guess I would call it, a typical reporter way. There's some distance. She doesn't know me very well. I don't know her very well. I'm asking her questions about, this traumatic experience she's been involved in. And over the course of time, got closer, learned a lot more about her life, her husband's life, and some of the events that took place. I don't want to, spoil everything in the podcast if you haven't listened to it. But it just struck me as, this is a really deeply human story that I want to tell. And it took the shape of, a multi-episode. So I think it's, I'm trying to remember 9 episodes in this series, You Went to Triangle, where we really follow the search for Eric Robinson and then ultimately bring it to the modern day and see where Maryland's at now.
Yeah, and that was really interesting that you mentioned Maryland, because that came across so well. And as I was listening to the podcast, the first time you talked to her, I could tell that this woman is like, wait a minute, what level of confidence do I have with this man, or why should I participate? And by the end, and I don't want to spoil anything, you two were friends, you two were colleagues, you two were on the same page, and it was that relationship, although it was tangential to the story, was very interesting to see how she, her personality changed during the course of the podcast and her involvement. And then there were all these other people. It was like you're on his trail and you keep meeting a different person, and then they come and they go, and it was you wove them in really well.
Well, thank you, Greg. One of the things that really was going through my mind during all of the reporting work, which was, years of reporting on this story, was, kind of the why do we do it? Why do we tell this story? This, out of all the stories in the world, why choose to invest on this one? And I'm thinking back to earlier when we were talking about, Governor Cox and his statements on 60 Minutes and looking for the people who are building up rather than tearing down. And to me, like, here's this gentleman from Australia. He doesn't really have many connections here in Utah, and he goes missing in what's essentially my backyard. And I felt like an obligation as a local reporter to put in the extra effort and the time to try to really dig into the story. Just out of respect for him. He's a fellow human being. It doesn't matter that he's not a Utahn, he's not an American. He's another human being, and he deserves that. And, so I hope that came through in the story that was put together. It is a story about the loss of this man's life ultimately, but it's also about the love that he and his wife shared and the kind of camaraderie I think that we all share in our love for natural places.
And were you at all concerned that you became part of the story as opposed to telling the story? Because you did. You had to go in. You had to do some research yourself. You had to walk some steps.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And so I was interested in that, because it's one thing to be a reporter, which you've done for your career, but it's another thing to be part of the story. You were.
It is. Yeah. And believe me, I'm conscious of that. I'm looking through the glass behind you at Maria Chaleos, our good friend from KSL News Radio, who's now looking up at me. Maria is also, she teaches journalism at the University of Utah. In a lot of ways, doing the You Went to Triangle story violated some of the very, prime things you're taught in journalism school, not to use the word I, not to inject yourself in the center of the story. And some rules are made to be broken. There are some stories that demand, I think, a more personal approach. If I'm going to sit down and tell you a 9-hour narrative story and pretend like I don't have investment, I'm being disingenuous.
Yeah. So You Went to Triangle. Tell our listeners how that, because I think of the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
And there was the similarity was not lost on me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that title is meant to be, evocative. You're thinking about the mystery of it because it is a story about a man who disappeared in these mountains, and we draw in stories about other people who have disappeared in the mountains. I've had people ask me, what are the corners of this triangle? And it's like, I could draw many ones that would fit different. It's more about this idea that for whatever reason, this mountain range in Utah here seems to draw people in, and for some reason, some of those folks don't come out. And, we're focusing very specifically in this season on one, but there are other cases. I'll tell you, we've got a case right now in Duchesne County. A young man came over from Europe in March of this year and caught a ride share from the Salt Lake City International Airport to Moon Lake on the south slope of the Uinta Mountains, and he hasn't been seen since.
Oh, my word.
So I've talked to, folks at the Duchesne County Sheriff's Office who are in charge of that investigation, and, they're just as flummoxed as anybody else as to what, was going on. So it is something that happens. It keeps happening. We've had close calls. Just this last summer, we had a young lady who spent an overnight as a missing person up in the Uinta Mountains. And I think there are things that we can take away as, folks who recreate in the backcountry. I've talked to you about maybe, you want to get out and try a little solo hike. And I applaud you for that. I think you should, but also, we need to be safe in doing those kinds of things.
I have to.
You should.
After listening to it, I have to go. This is personal, but I have to go into the Uintas. I have to go because I've hiked the Uintas, and we had scout camp up there,
Mhm.
and when you were describing some of the places, some of the areas, of course, I haven't been nearly as deeply involved as, but I can picture that. I know that Mirror Lake Highway. I know the lakes up there, and I know that the road back down over to Evanston on the other
Yeah.
side, and I'm very familiar, having cycled through that area on the road, and hiked that area a little bit, but I have to do a solo trek up there, and I'll talk to you first.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I'm happy to give
I'll carry
pointers.
my beacon or whatever it is, but I do want to go up there.
And I mean, we talked earlier to the folks at the Utah Office of Tourism and Film about the potential shutdown that's looming and what that would mean for national parks. And look, for me, part of the reason I choose to live in Utah is because we have proximity to wilderness, national forest, Bureau of Land Management, national park. Like, we have this wealth, and you don't develop informed opinions about the management of these places unless you get to spend time in them. So yeah, I'm all for giving you some pointers if you want, trail recommendations or anything like that.
And what also struck me, we only got a minute left, was the expanse. I mean, this is a huge area, which you don't think of. You think, well, it's in the northeast corner of Utah is sort of some summit and some, you went to Duchesne County area. It's a pretty small area, but it's an expanse. I mean, it's an expanse. And looking for a person up there makes it even more expansive.
To stand on one of those passes and look out over the landscape and just think, how would I find a single human being here?
Right.
It definitely sells the challenge of that story.
You went to Triangle, you have to listen to it. Utah State University says it's all hands on deck to make sure more students are safe as Turning Point USA returns to Utah today for the first time since Charlie Kirk was shot during an earlier stop at Utah Valley University. Midday with Maria